In the morning to 10 o'clock every day.
And I can't turn
That
on
I'm not.
other
No, I
things.
work, I don't work for them until December.
Oh, I thought you worked for them year-round.
No, just at Christmas time. But I'm working for my accounting job.
Okay, I think I got it. We're going to call the meeting to order, the Grand Traverse County Resource Management and Administration Committee of Wednesday, October 14th, 2015. Please stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Bonnie.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Max Bauer,
Here,
Lathrop,
Here.
Johnson,
Present.
Crawford,
here.
Klaus,
Here.
Kropa.
Here. Do any commissioners have any changes to the minutes? They will stand approved. First public comment, Bonnie, please.
Any person shall be permitted to address a meeting of the Board of Commissioners which is required to be open to the public under the provision of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. Public comment shall be carried out in accordance with the following board rules and procedures. Any person wishing to address the board shall state his or her name and address. No person shall be allowed to speak more than once on the same matter, excluding time needed to answer commissioners' questions, if any. The chairperson shall control the amount of time each person shall be allowed to speak, which shall not exceed 3 minutes. The chairperson may, at his or her discretion, extend the amount of time any person is allowed to speak. Public comment will be solicited during the 2 public comment periods noted in Rule 5.4, Order of Business. However, public comment will generally be received at any time during the meeting regarding a specific topic currently under discussion by the board. Members of the public wishing to comment should raise their hand or pass a note to the clerk in order to be recognized and shall not address the board until called upon by the chairperson.
Okay, that being heard, is there anyone for public comment? Come on up.
Hello, my name is Michael Gillespie. I live at 535 Ash Street in Kingsley, Michigan. Just a small document here I'd like to read to you if I can. Having been a part of the probational residential services while it was located at Dukoski Hall, I found a sincere need for a program of its magnitude. While after completing what I believe was half of my sentence in incarceration, I was turned over to the ATS team for what I believe was 4 months. Having lived under this structured environment, I was able to continue my career while being able to work. I was also allowed to continue my spiritual commitment while attending church and, most importantly, satisfy my recovery needs, such as attending recovery meetings and intimate discussion with my sponsor. This was very important in my recovery as I had 12 little steps to climb and needed this help to do so. Another thing I would like to mention is the term family disease. Several times I was arrested, jailed, served times, and left, always with the promise that things would get better for me and I would stop drinking and live better. To no avail, I would soon enter the abyss only to lose the trust and once again demoralize myself over and over. The PRS program allowed me the opportunity to slowly integrate back into my family's lives. Slowly and one day at a time, my family was able to see me change. While at church, they saw a new man emerging. While at counseling that they were able to be a part of, they saw a new man emerging. And eventually, when I was able to attend family dinner during Thanksgiving or Christmas, my family began to believe that it was possible for someone like me to recover. Fact has it, my family didn't really believe in any type of recovery was possible. They didn't believe in systems, especially after the jail here forgot that I was to be released and allowed me to stay in their jail 10 months longer than my sentence carried. The apology that they received from Mr. Benedict was nice, but the time that they lost with their son was very hard on them. My recovery has taught me forgiveness. Today I serve the Community Corrections Advisory Board. I'm also an active member of a 12-step recovery program and have served my community continuously since I was released some 12 years ago. Since then, I was accepted through Habitat for Humanity, built a home in Kingsley, a home and a foundation that would soon allow me to attend college for 4 years, earning my bachelor's degree in social work. I do have a felony conviction, and many years ago, it still has a foot on my back, and while trying to gain employment in my field is quite tough, I started a business I call Integrity Painting, and I'm very professional in doing so. My family has regained trust in me. I am committed to serving the still suffering alcoholic, and I'm an active part of my community, and I'm truly thankful for the men and women that helped me along my journey at PRS program, and sincerely hope that this commission allows for the opportunity for which we're here. I am human. I made mistakes and was given an opportunity for change, and I did. The PRS program gave me structure while holding me accountable for my actions. Something I needed.
You can continue.
Just a little, thank you.
Yep.
Something that I needed and honestly had none in my life unless it was governed by the sheriff in your jail. For someone like me, jail is easy. Living amongst those that live honest, hard-working, humble lives was something that I had to learn, and I'm thankful for the PRS program for assisting me in my recovery. I truly hope the commissioners here tonight see fit to allow the PRS program to continue their dedication to those they serve and allow for the use of the property for their continued programming to move forward. Thanks, guys.
Thank you for sharing your story. Is there anyone else? That's a hard act to follow.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, we're going to go ahead and close the first public comment and on to the approval of the agenda. I have a few changes to the agenda after some discussion with our council. The first change I'm going to make is remove the closed session that we have for this evening. Janice Adams, who's the attorney that authored the legal opinion, is not available to discuss that opinion. A closed session is not allowed unless to discuss the opinion with the attorney. You are all in receipt of written attorney-client privilege communication regarding Teamsters State, County, and Municipal Workers Local 214 arbitration decision. Our attorney has told me Janice Adams is not available this evening, and therefore the closed session on this matter will be rescheduled to a date when Ms. Adams is available. The other item I have is to add an item to the agenda, which is under old business. I think it would be under old business.
Unfinished is what it's called.
Okay, I will add it under old business part B. The letter is on your desks, and it is entitled Budget Letter to Circuit Court. And I'll go ahead and add that, and if you have a moment, if you could look over that, and you'll remember that this was a letter we had discussed previously. We do it all at one time. Are there any other items to be added or subtracted from the agenda? Any items from staff or audience? Okay. Then I will now look for a motion.
Motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Support.
Motion by Wheelock, support by Max Bauer. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Now we will move on. Bear with me on my technical difficulties here. I'm learning. Okay. The consent calendar. Bonnie.
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file, or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Conservation District Monthly Report. Number 2, Road Commission Monthly Report. Number 3, Resource Recovery Manager's Report. Number 4, Commission on Aging Monthly Report. Number 5, Community Corrections Reports June, July, and August. B, approval. Number 1, approval of the 2015-2016 Community Corrections Contracts. Number 2, approval of change in pilot program for GPS technology.
Okay. Those being read, are there any commissioners that would like to pull an item from the consent calendar? Ron.
Number 1 under B.
Approval of 2015-2016 Community Corrections Contract.
Yes.
Okay. Any other commissioners? Anyone from audience or staff? Okay. We need a motion on that.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the consent calendar with the removal of item B1, approval of 2015-2016 Community Corrections Contracts.
Second.
Okay. Moved by Johnson, support by Crawford. Any discussion?
I would just like explanation of, I'm sorry.
We're
Yeah.
approving the consent calendar, we're not for item content.
We'll come back to you.
We'll get it for you.
All right.
Okay. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have a consent calendar now. Okay, I'm learning this sideways scroll. Let's see, Rhonda, hey, look, it's items removed from the consent calendar, number 8. Ron?
Look at that. Could we get some
Hey, look, Sharice's just
explanation?
going to waltz on up, because she knows.
And my question is this truly money that the county pays, or is it money that comes from elsewhere?
What it is you pay everything. We have a budget that we get funds from the state of Michigan for our grant, and we get funds from Antrim and Leelanau to run our programs. We have revenue programs. All of those things go into the county budget. And these are just items that are all funded within all of my different line items that are part of my budget. So you pay, it is your money. You know, you pay for all of those. But it all is funded through all of the different line items that I have in our budget.
And I bring it up because we are going to be coming into budgets, and I hate to see something like this if it's, you know, if it's a negotiable contract or item at that point. I just hate to see dollars come through at this point and just approve dollars going out without knowing where we're headed on our budget.
I understand that. These are not new programs. Every one of these and the contracts that we submit every year, I've been here 10 years. Not much has changed in these contracts in the 10 years that I've been here. They're all basically the same amounts, even for the last 10 years that we're paying providers to provide all of the counseling. That's what most of these are, is counseling. And so it's nothing different than we've ever budgeted into our program every year.
Okay.
The only increase, even if you see that, is one increase. Each of our programs, we require client co-pays. They need to have an investment into their treatment and what they're doing also. And one of the providers has asked for an increase in that client copay.
Doesn't the state give your department some money every year?
Yes, a significant amount.
And is that the lion's share of your budget?
It is. It is 200 and, I can't remember the exact amount because it just got finalized, $218,000 or something along those lines. And a lot of the funds for these programs are coming right out of the grant.
And I also realize you've done some very ingenious and innovative ways to raise money to make up the differences.
Right.
What do you think that the county pays out of its own pocket for these services a year?
Last year.
And I'm not counting what the state
Right.
or what you have ingeniously come up with. And okay,
I'm
just
ingenious, thank you
what,
for saying
out of our pocket, what do you think it is about?
I don't have my figures with me, but if I recall correctly, the amount that we asked for Grand Traverse County for this year was roughly $55,000 and some change.
Okay.
Antrim County also puts in money. Theirs was $13,500 and something. And Leelanau County was, I just had an answer for this today, so that was $8,370.
So we're getting a pretty big bang for a buck, aren't we?
Well, we very much are. Last year, when I did our calculations based on, every program that we use gets people out of jail. And when I did the calculations last year, based on paying the county, or the jail charging about $56 a day to house an inmate, that's an estimate that I got from 2001. So it was $56 a day to house an inmate. And so with the days that we get people out of jail early, we had saved the county $837,000 last year.
Plus also, the chances for them going back to jail is less in this program. So it's cheaper and it works.
Well, it very much works. The goal of our program is to reduce recidivism.
Yeah.
It isn't, the byproduct of what we do with our program is a reward to the counties and getting people out of jail and saving that money. That isn't actually the purpose of it. The purpose is for them to get treatment, just like you heard Mr. Gillespie. 12 years ago, he went through the programs that we offer. That is our goal, is so that these people do not come back into our programs and back into our jails. And roughly, on any given month, we have about a 78 to 82% success rate with our programs, meaning we get people out of jail and they successfully complete our programs without violating and returning back to jail.
What I
significant.
hope to do is learn to say the word recidivism. I can't give myself.
Well, with your new appointment, you're going to have
I
to.
know.
That's one of the main
The governor
things is
appointed me, I got to at least learn that word.
recidivism. So, yeah.
Thank you.
I think, was Chris?
Oh, no, she
Okay.
answered it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sunny and then Bob? I don't know. It's like my kids. so
It's always
raising-
easy for us to talk about jail beds that we save and those kind of things. But like Mike explained here, it's not just about our jail bed saving. And one of the things, we talk about a 75 to 80% success rate, which is very good for considering what we're dealing with. But I think for this board, it's important to talk about how many people are on a daily average are in community corrections.
Well, I just did that for you. I thought maybe that question would come up.
I was
so
sure you probably did.
I like to try and answer anything. Don't like the I don't know answer. So when I did my calculations today for just Grand Traverse County, there were 63 people out of the Grand Traverse County Jail.
So when we think about it, it's not just that people aren't in our jail. Can you imagine what our jail overcrowding situation would be as if we didn't have these programs in place? We'd have 60 people more in our jail every day. And I don't know, I haven't looked to see just what our numbers are in the last week or so, but, here, not too long ago, we were housing
Well, I think we have 10 people
20
boarded.
in Charlevoix
Yeah.
or 20 boarded out.
Yeah, 20 in Little County, 1 in Saucon County, 165 in
So where would we put 60 more people? These are not only saving us jail beds, but they're making a difference in these people's lives, and that's the important part of it. For $55,000 a year of private general fund money, we're doing a good thing here.
Yeah.
Do you need this for immediate approval, as much as Sunny likes that? Because I see it's October 1st to September 30th.
No, it can go to the full.
Okay.
It can be retroactive. I'm not paying any of these folks. I guess what that means is I don't pay these folks till you approve their contracts. And I won't receive a bill for August or October until November anyway. And this will be coming before the full board at the end of the month. No, I don't need immediate, Sunny.
Madam Chairman, I would move to approve the contract as outlined by the Community Corrections Director.
Support?
Moved by Wheelock, support by Johnson. I do have a question, not because I'm not interested in having these services, but they are the same contracts every year. Is there a chance for a competitive bidding process so we could maybe allow community corrections to have the same amount of money from the County Board of Commissioners, but get more for our dollar?
Well, of course. That would be the easy answer. Of course there is. Traverse City has a lot of resources available, but there are certain things that certain agencies are experts at. We have a contract with the Women's Resource Center. There is nobody else that will ever provide that service better than them. We have only we have two agencies that provide what we call recovery homes, T-houses. They're the only agencies in town that do provide that. If we have other agencies that we need more recovery homes. We need more of those beds. I can get more people out of your jail if I have more beds to put people. But the agencies that we have that we work with, they're maxed out too. They can't afford to buy new houses. And so if there are other agencies that come and they want to do that, that is definitely something that we can, I would welcome that. I would be very thankful for it. So definitely that, there is something that I can open up for a bid. There's a couple of them. We can do something for the sex offenders. I'll be very frank, we only provide sex offender counseling for the felons, and our circuit court judges don't allow the felons typically to get out of jail. It is very, very rare. And for my felony amount that I pay folks for this last year was only, I think, $1,100. It wasn't a huge significant amount. And it is the same provider that's been providing it, and he is also a subcontractor with the Department of Corrections that provides the same counseling to those people that are funded through DOC for that. So, that,
Yeah, it's tough because in an effort to run this county more efficiently, we don't want to just blanketly rubber stamp contracts just because they've always been done. And it's not because we're looking to necessarily eliminate something, but it's looking to improve something. And it appeared from when I glanced through this, when I received it, that these were just repetitive contracts. And it would be great if we could get every department, mandated or not, to reevaluate all of their contracts, because we could be able to locate more money to provide better services in some of these, particularly public safety departments. But if that is not the situation in this, then maybe it isn't, but
well, I review them every year. I review them a lot. Part of the requirements that I have through the Department of Corrections for my reports that I have to give them, I have quarterly goals that I have to meet through them. If something is not, is being underutilized, or the provider is not performing, I'm looking at those numbers every 3 months, and I'm addressing those issues with those providers immediately. And I have canceled contracts with providers because they were underperforming and they were basically not providing a good service for the money that we were paying them. I've done that, and it didn't bother me at all, because one thing you don't know about me is very, very thrifty. I don't like spending money I don't have to spend. Doesn't matter if it's my money or if it's the county money, which is my money. I'm paying taxes. So I don't want to spend something that I don't think that we need to spend it on. I am
that's why
trying.
I'm asking you the question. I
I am
happen to
a
be a
very
little cheap.
thrifty person when it comes to the things that
I
we
know.
do.
Well, I just feel like we can squeeze every penny that we can out for these programs. I feel that they're very worthwhile, but it is important to know that it's kind of a niche market. There aren't a lot of
There's
competitive
not.
Well, and
possibilities.
that's the big thing, the options for us, and Sharice can talk about, where we have to take people to put them in residential treatment, because the long and the short of it is the facilities are not available here for us to do that. So we're trucking people all over the state in order to get them into the treatment that they need. I told Ward before, I don't remember when, Wexford County, I believe a couple of years ago, purchased a house and contracted with ATS to operate it. Has it been 2 years? 2 years, 3 years?
I think it's longer than that. They actually
Yeah,
operate
yeah.
the house themselves now.
But possibly the time will come that Grand Traverse County can do that and figure out a way that would provide us better service instead of trucking these people all over the state.
It's hard to bring in
It costs a
people
lot of money.
to run a business that is not a profitable business. I mean,
Well,
it's
Well, that's why I'm here for the
not an
second portion of
MEDC
tonight.
project.
And the transition houses get paid significantly more money under private contract than they do from our
That would
community
make
corrections
Yeah.
for the same service. They provide the same service. They provide us 24-hour service for what they get paid from other agencies for a fraction of that service.
Well, for example, let's go to one of the items on here. Under Traverse Area Support Services and Addiction Treatment Services, it's the RHS program, so that's Recovery Home Supervision. We pay for 30 days for an offender to be in that house, $24 a day. The offenders are there much longer than 30 days. Typically, they're there, I would say 90 days to 120 days. We are not paying for any of that, but they're still providing the exact same supervision for that staff. I can't afford, you can't afford for me to pay for somebody to be there for 120 days at $24 a day. So ATS and Traverse Area Support Services, they've agreed to get the money for 30 days. That's when the most intensive supervision is being done on somebody, getting them situated, set up in what they're supposed to be doing, establishing the rules, really watching those folks. For the first 30 days, it's intensive supervision for them. After that, pretty much the offenders know what they've got to be doing. They've gotten jobs by then. Everything kind of smooths out, and so we don't pay for that. But it is certainly a benefit that we're receiving, because the people are not in jail, but they're not being paid by the county anymore to house these folks. The residents have to pay $12 a day to be in them, the transition houses. That includes all their utilities and everything for living in that house. So after 30 days, that's all that these transition houses are getting, is $12 a day from each offender, and I will tell you, that's when they pay. They don't all pay. My clients pay.
Is that one of those things where we bill them after their time is up and we get reimbursed, hopefully, or do they pay to live there?
The rent?
The rent, the $12 a day?
ATS and Traverse Area Support Services collect that themselves. That is not tied to our funds in any way, and we do not control that.
Okay.
When I have somebody on community corrections, they don't get privileges. They don't get to do pretty much anything until they have a job and they're paid. Their rent is paid in full.
So I will tell you that the community corrections clients, they pay their rent. Either they want to stay out of jail and have these benefits. I need these tea houses, and I need them to have the funds to operate. And in order to do that, they have to pay their rent. But they also have people from other places. They don't just take our clients.
Is there any other questions at all for Sharice? We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
I'll be back.
We'll be seeing you again.
Don't go far, we still have more.
We still have more.
Stand up here.
Bonnie knows what's next.
Up next is the county clerk's office, concealed pistol license / fingerprinting.
Bonnie Shealy, County Clerk.
Sarah Letts, Chief Deputy.
So, the concealed pistol license law changed recently, and they're eliminating gun boards December 1st. And we are asking to get a fingerprint machine. Currently, when new applicants apply, they apply in our office, and then they have to wait till Wednesday only that the sheriff's office does fingerprinting. They do it 8:30 to 10:30 and 4 to 6 on Wednesdays. They're supposed to be fingerprinted within 5 days of applying. We think that it would be much more efficient for us to just take their fingerprints right there when they apply. So we went out and talked to the sheriff in the jail, and Sheriff Bensley and Captain Ritter are very supportive and wanted us to do this months ago. But we needed to go out for RFPs and see if we could get a really good price on this machine. So Sarah sent out the RFPs, and she'll explain a little bit about that.
So there's only 4 certified vendors in the state of Michigan. 3 of them responded to our request for bid. And in the memo, on the first grid, I itemized the initial base cost and the annual maintenance, and then a 5-year projection on how much it would cost us over 5 years total. And this was based on just a fingerprint-only machine, included a printer, included a laptop computer. It was like the whole package. And then after talking with our IT department, we discovered we can get a desktop computer from them at a cheaper price, and we don't need a printer. I already confirmed that with the state of Michigan. So I went back to the vendors and I said, can you rebid this with just the unit only? And then that's what the second one is. And so the second chart. Crossmatch Technologies, their initial base cost was kind of mid-range, but their overall 5-year cost is actually cheaper. And they are also the current vendor for the jail's fingerprinting machine. So they're a known vendor. The fees can be covered from the CPL fund, which is part of the December 1st law change. The fees collected at the county clerk, the $26 for new applicants, goes into a CPL fund, and that can be used for technology, including the option for county clerks to take the fingerprints. And I calculated on a 6-year average, we do about 405 new applicants, and at $15 a fingerprint, and that's a statutory fee, it will more than cover all the supplies and accessories for this. Currently, starting June 2nd of this year is when the fees started going into this CPL fund. Up to October 3rd, we have collected $9,000 into our CPL fund, so we currently have enough money to cover our request.
How much is it?
We're asking for the total cost not to exceed $8,500. The machine itself is $7,444.40. And then any incidentals, we do have to ship the computer to the vendors so they can do some testing to make sure there's no bugs on it. So there'll be some shipping fees in there. The computer from the IT department is $835.
The sheriff's department said that 40% of the people that they fingerprint are actually our CPL applicants. So this is going to take a burden off of the jail because we'll be doing it and they won't anymore.
Madam Chair, what's the life expectancy of this machine?
About 5 years, I think.
It's 5 years is the supported life expectancy. Sorry.
Sheriff was going to be standing behind me too, but he didn't come.
We got Captain Ritter instead.
5 years is the supported life expectancy. One of the units we're using right now, we've had for 7 years. We're still not having an issue with it.
Thank you.
Ours is a little bit simpler model than what the Sheriff's Department uses. We didn't want to do all the fingerprinting in Grand Traverse County. I don't have enough staff to handle that. So our fingerprint machine is mostly...
It's the 10 print, so it only does the digits. It's not a palm printer, so we're not taking a palm print or a side print of the hand, which is used for when they're booking, and we don't need the camera for the booking software, so it's a pared down version of what the jail uses.
I'm glad, Bonnie, that you said that you don't have enough money or enough staff to do all fingerprints, because that's where my mind was immediately going. I know that there are a lot of individuals who are required to get security fingerprints for their place of employment before they are allowed to come in and be employed. And the Sheriff's Department currently handles that. So I'm curious as to what would it take, because I've gone through the fingerprinting process when I got my CPL, and I think that your department, I hate to say it, your department is really, in my mind, much more suited to do something like this.
Well...
And I know you've reduced staff and...
And you're looking at certain people, well, we have a limited counter space. We have passports right behind where we're going to be doing it. So it's going to get kind of crowded in maybe that area. The commissioners years ago said that they weren't going to charge residents for fingerprinting, although CPL applicants do get charged $15. It's in the law. So no, I don't think we could handle that influx of people.
Do we know what that influx of people amounts to?
Well, he said it's like 60%.
I'm giving him his exercise.
I didn't bring the figures. I can tell you on average, we do roughly 30 sets of prints per Wednesday. 40% of those are CPL prints. I know just losing those CPL prints is going to be a big burden off the jail in clearing out those CPL or the fingerprint sessions in the morning and the afternoon. And it's something that we've discussed several times. Without that fee, without charging that fee for that fingerprints, it's real tough for somebody else to take that and say, okay, we can absorb that cost. So.
And we might need, I think we would need something a little bit more expensive. It was more expensive to do the type that they have.
Yes, some of the securities prints do require palm printing and heel printing. They would have to go to an upgraded scanner. They'd have to go to a larger version.
Which is about double the cost, because I did actually get a couple of quotes on that. I said, hey, just in case, what's the one with the palm printer? And the base cost was around $14,000, and that was just the machine.
What other things are the CPL fund used for?
Supplies, office supplies, and the staffing.
So this wouldn't strain costs for something else, or?
This is something new, the CPL fund, and I believe when I talked to Dean, some of our expenses currently that we incur will be charged against that CPL fund because it doesn't go into the general fund anymore. So he'll figure out how to do that.
Madam Chair. I think you can.
Yeah, I mean, I was just running some numbers, just because I like doing that thing, but, I mean, roughly the $15 a person, if you do 496 people in the year, that covers the cost of that. And then it was 624 people at the 40%, 52 weeks a year if you do it. So that would be $9,300, a little over $9,300 a year just in the $15 fee that you get. So
Yeah, I based it on the 6-year average. I looked back and included this year, and we haven't finished out the year yet. And the 6-year average for new applicants, and they're the only ones that need to be fingerprinted, are the new applicants, and there's 405 average a year, and at the $15 per applicant, it would be $6,075.
Okay.
And that's, again, an average, it ebbs and flows, so.
Has the number of concealed permits been increasing slowly over the years?
People have been, yes.
I would say it was
Yes.
we had like an uptick in 2013, but yeah, it's 2010 there was 265 new, 2011 there was 329, 2012 there was 435, and 2013 there was 630. I don't know what happened in 2013. 14 there was 430, and as of right now, we've done 339 new applicants. That's just new. That's not including renewals.
We figure it's going to make it a lot more efficient for our new applicants because they're standing right in front of us, they're filling out the application, everything's happening right then, we take their fingerprints and they're off and running. They don't have to come back on another day and try to get fingerprinted, which does delay the process somewhat. So we're thinking it's going to be more efficient. Sheriff and the jail are very supportive of this. And anything else you can think of?
When I think about, when I went through this process, an officer had to come out, badge, and fingerprint me to get my private license to carry a gun. And I think about, you're talking about some companies require this full set of prints. They're not being charged, they're not criminals, or being accused of a crime even. And yet our sheriff's department does this service. Could we contract this out? And we could provide the space. Could we contract this type of stuff that's non-criminal or non-violation related? Could we contract it out rather than have some deputy do it?
Look at Todd's face.
I think the
I think
county,
it would be
Says
very
it all.
expensive to do that.
Todd wants to talk.
I think there are certain things that are statutory that we're required to provide fingerprints for. There are a lot of fingerprints we do that aren't covered under that. And there are companies that come in that require 6, sometimes 8, 10 cards of fingerprint cards for one individual, and they'll send 12 individuals at a time for fingerprints. We'll tie an officer up for 4 hours doing ink cards that we're not charging anyone for.
If Bonnie's department can do it, how is that covered?
What we'll be doing is a little bit more simple, the more simple ones.
Right, they're doing,
Not like what he's talking about.
they're doing something a little different. That some of the statutory ones for bonds, specifically for somebody to be bonded, I believe that's statutorily done by law enforcement.
But you get my point, though.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if 30% of those could be done by a private individual was paid, then we're not using our officers' time, and we're not paying union stuff for them either.
I think what we heard from Bonnie and from Todd both is we're going to reduce the number of people that have to be fingerprinted at the jail by 40%,
Correct.
just simply by allowing the clerk's office to handle the concealed carry permits.
Well, I'm saying,
And they're right there at the clerk's office. They have to make the application at the clerk's office anyway. That's required.
I'm not arguing that. I'm saying extend that idea. And maybe we can contract some of it out, just saying.
Do we have a motion for this?
I would move to authorize the county clerk to purchase a live scan fingerprint unit from Crossmatch Technologies and add a computer from our IT department for a total cost not to exceed $8,500. In addition, to authorize annual maintenance costs in the amount of $710.90.
Support.
Moved by Max Bauer, support by Johnson. Further discussion? Christine?
I think that come budget time, we need to take a look at the workload that is created in the sheriff's department for fingerprinting and take a look at fees.
And I'm guessing there's other work that our sheriff's department are providing for free or low cost to the community that we could consider as well.
You know, when companies are sending, you know, many people for detailed fingerprints, then, you know, I think it's something we should talk about during the budget.
Particularly considering we always are understaffed in our jail, and they are doing the job of 2 people for 1 anyways, and it's a job that nobody really wants to have. So when you're doing double the work, that's certainly something to consider. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks for all the work on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bonnie. Nice job, you guys.
Did we, let's see, oh, there it is, Don.
Here it comes.
You even get it out.
Yes, immediate, this is one for immediate approval. I'm going to note that right now. Dell servers and storage area network maintenance.
Yeah, we're looking at purchasing maintenance for 2 years. The warranty is up on that equipment. The equipment does support probably 80% of our environment for our storage and networking for the county and city. And so it is critical equipment, so it's not something that I would consider not putting on maintenance. And I first went through and priced it through Dell and said, you know, hey, can I get better pricing if I go somewhere else? And yeah, so I went through one of our business partners, and yeah, it's the same price. So they really don't discount their pricing, and ultimately the service is provided directly through Dell on the equipment. And I thought all of the dates were November for expiration, but yeah, I found 2 of the dates were in October, and so therefore I'm at the committee tonight to ask for immediate approval.
Anyone with questions for Don? Christine?
Don, why do I want 2 years instead of just 1?
Well, we're planning on using the equipment for 2 years, and even though the price is really not that significantly
That's why
different.
I'm asking.
But a year from now, when I ask for the pricing, there's no guarantee that price won't go up for that second year when I do it in a year. Right now, it will lock in that pricing, so I know that I'm guaranteed the price. So otherwise, yeah, a year from now, they could raise that by another $1,000.
How is this changed from previous years, the price? Stayed the same, gone up, gone down?
This is the first time we're asking for this equipment because it was on a 3-year warranty prior to this.
Okay. Is, based upon your experience and knowledge, is this a standard amount?
It's reasonable, yes. Yeah, I don't think it's out of line. I don't think I really have much choice when I asked Dell and then I asked for their partner, and they basically gave me the same pricing.
So, in other words, they have a monopoly?
On their specific equipment, unless I wanted to go out and start looking at third-party type. But like I
Okay.
said, you know, this system reports directly.
It is what it is.
Yeah, and when there is a problem, it is electronically tied to them. I mean, we'll often get a call, something might go out at the night, during the night, a disk drive has failed, and they already know about it when we come in the morning and are shipping out equipment to us to do the replacement.
Any other questions at all? Bob?
Yeah, that was going to tie into my question. How often does the warranty work come into play?
We probably had 2 or 3 times on this, but like I said, it's equipment that I would say we can't afford for it to be down. It has to be there working.
This equipment is about 3 years old then?
Yes.
Do we have an estimate as to what the life expectancy of it is?
We will probably be looking at the replacement in 2 more years.
Because, you know, obviously, if we've got a system that handles 50 servers on behalf of the county and the city, we can't take the chance that that piece of equipment can go down.
Yeah, it's probably about a 5-year cycle that we replace most of that. By the time those computers and the operating systems they can run, or the speed of the disk drives or the storage capacity, that we're looking at that again.
How does working with the cloud play into this? The fact that we have all these servers?
Right now, all of these servers are local, so this is not cloud. We have not put servers out in the cloud yet. We're using cloud services for where we do like our Gmail apps and some of the other like the prosecutors looking at using a vendor who will actually host that full application on servers in the cloud. But this environment here is all local.
Why aren't we going to the cloud?
Now, depending on the applications and the services that are there, I mean, some of that, even though there's a lot of talk about it, some of it's new. But police applications, some of the security, I mean, we would be putting all of our data out there, trusting that, they are maintaining the security of the information. And so it's definitely something we should be looking at. And as we look at new applications, we recently did a little demonstration for building code and looked at a cloud-based application there where, again, it would be hosted externally.
If you were to begin looking at moving some of the things we do into the cloud servers, approximately how long would it take to switch?
Well, some of those, I mean, you can go through Amazon or Microsoft. They have cloud-based servers, and you can migrate your servers to them. But there's other things we have to look at, too. Some of them are internet speeds and having backup internet connections. So there's more things to it than, I mean, because now all of your access is somewhere else out there. So if we have any issues in communications, then those also affect the cloud.
I know it does, but that wasn't my question. If we started today, the reason I'm asking the question is I want to know whether or not I would prefer a 1-year or a 2-year, because I'm trying to look ahead. I don't want to do what we've always done just because we've always done it that way. And I know we've always had our servers local, but I'm hearing more and more at conferences that, and I heard from our county prosecutor, that he's confident with the security that he needs for his, and he needs a lot of security for his court cases. He's confident using the cloud, and he's done a great deal of research. So that's why I'm asking, if we said today, gee, we're going to move to the cloud, how long would it take?
I would say to try to move everything, that would be really questionable as to whether we could get everything there. But
and perhaps we couldn't. But
right, and that's what I would say. We would start building servers out there and start building applications and doing that testing. And that's where a lot of them are doing what they call a hybrid environment, where you have servers here, you have servers there, and they're still supporting each other in that environment. So I don't really know. I mean, I'd have to do some investigation as to looking at those 50 to 60 servers we have and which ones could get moved out there. But I mean, if we were really said we want to go there, we'd still have to analyze the cost. It's not always cheaper to be able to go to the cloud just because it's out there. That's not always the reason.
And I understand that, but I mean, clearly I recall in Prosecutor Cooney's presentation, it was significantly less expensive to go to the cloud. I remember it was an excellent detailed presentation. So I agree with you. In some instances it may not be, but in some instances it may be. And so that's why I'm asking. I'm willing to support the 2 years.
Right. Yeah, and I think Bob's application is a little different in a way because his vendor is supporting not only the software but the whole server environment. They're maintaining that. In our case, in some of these, we would be taking the server, moving the server there. We still are working with a third-party vendor. And so, like I said, we have applications like the building code. We were just looking at that, and that was much more reasonable. And again, they host the entire application. We don't even see the server in behind there. We just see the application. These will change. We will still be managing the servers in most of these environments. So we haven't removed our management aspect from it. But it would be a year or two and that's what I would say. We would gradually start putting some there, and then make sure we're in that comfort level, make sure we've bumped up our internet, had dual connections that we don't have today.
Yeah, I mean, to add to that, I would assume that, a year out, since you have 2 years now, next year, you'd probably be looking at that to see, for your replacement of these servers, what are you wanting to do, and that kind of thing.
We would definitely be considering it.
Yeah.
I was just at a conference this fall, and we were hearing Oakland County talk about one of their recent disasters where they were hosted and they were out in Amazon, and the vendor they were with just closed shop, shut down. They didn't even have the keys to get to the server anymore after the vendor shut down.
Yeah.
And they were at least able to work through Amazon to to regain their access to get their data back.
And see, that's the
So-
the downside with that is you have to go through that third party. If it's your own server, then you can have somebody come fix it, usually quicker, and it is for 50 servers.
True, but
I don't know how many Mr. Cooney has, probably not 50.
God knows.
Don knows.
But we are consistently looking at cloud applications,
I was just
not always
curious.
moving servers there. But yes, it's something we should be considering.
Anyone else at all? Looking for a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the Dell server and storage area network maintenance contract for 2 years.
For immediate approval.
For immediate approval, yes.
Thought I heard that.
Support.
Yes.
Support by Dan.
Second it, yep.
Motion by Bob. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Roll call.
It's a roll call. Yeah.
Max Bauer,
Yes.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Klaus,
Yes.
Wheelock,
Yes, ma'am.
Kropa.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Thanks, Don.
Okay, now I'm going to flip back pages. This is terrible. We're up to John. You're on. TC Talus membership.
Good evening, John Syke, Grand Traverse County Planning and Development Director, and I'd like to have Matt McCauley from Networks Northwest and Commissioner Jim Crothers, who's the chair of the Talus Board, to join me. What I was here this evening to present to you is an update on the reorganization of Talus. I know that as we're aware, the county terminated its membership in Talus last year. And I've been working with the organization to kind of move through an effort in terms of reorganization to make it more streamlined, to make it more accountable. I think they've made some considerable efforts here within the last several months. They've made bylaws changes, particularly in relating to the membership of Talus, which had at one time 23 people. It's down to 10. I think it gets to what I think is more accountable decision-making, where you have either elected officials at the table representing local communities, or you have the agencies like the Road Commission and MDOT and so forth there. So it's not a lot of the other organizations. Those can be represented through committee structures or other ways, but in terms of increasing accountability, I think you need to have the decision makers from those either elected boards or the transportation agencies. The cost structure, they actually came up with a formula. The dues amount for Grand Traverse County is significantly reduced, and it would be an annual amount of $3,000. There's been some staffing changes. Matt McCauley and Mike Woods of Networks Northwest are now the staff members for that. There's also been an effort to formulate a better relationship between the technical committee and the board of directors of Talus. And one of the things that I've been helping with that is to get better attendance at the technical committee so that their staff are there that are representing all the different members of Talus. I think these changes, and I expect some additional changes, although these are the major changes that I think are important, that really kind of puts Talus in a much better position to be much more productive. I think Networks Northwest staff has done a good job recently in terms of setting up the work program that needs to be done. I think that's been one of the challenges, is that work tasks have been identified, but they've never been completed. And I think this kind of focus right now is ensuring that those tasks will actually be completed. I think it's also important for the county to consider, I know this has been talked about many times, but the Metropolitan Planning Organization status, which would be a federal designation. It didn't happen last census. It didn't happen the prior census to that. But I think at this point, and there could be changes certainly at the federal level on what those designations consist of, but I think in terms of the urbanized area, we probably will hit that with the 2020 census. I think it's important for the county, as representing all communities within the county, to be a part of Talus. I also think it's important that if there are projects which this board wants to push forward, support, that it needs to be at that table where those other decisions decision makers are there. I think it's important to, so if you want to advance those projects, to be recognized by the state of Michigan on the importance of those projects. So I think at this juncture, I think it's worthwhile to reconsider membership within Thales. And with that, I'd like to, if you may, allow for Matt and Jim to make some comments.
Evening, Matt McCauley, Director of Strategic Initiatives at Networks Northwest. It wasn't that long ago that we were here and we had a lively discussion about TC Thales, both in its present condition at the time and where it should be in the future. And this board, each of you offered timely and good advice on how we could improve upon Thales, and in relatively short amount of time, I believe that most, if not all, of those concerns were addressed. As John mentioned, the governing structure has greatly changed. It is a slimmed down board compared to what it was prior. It is comprised mainly of the local units of government in the urbanized area, and more importantly, the elected officials from those units of government, and the three transportation implementers, if you will, meaning MDOT, the Road Commission, and the City of Traverse City when it comes to road maintenance and new construction. So at its very core, Thales represents the basic, currently, represents the framework required for this community to become an MPO in 2020. And that designation is a designation it's purely done by population. That it's not something that is necessarily a choice, that once there is a population threshold that is met by an urbanized area, then there is the opportunity for federal transportation dollars to go directly to the community. Sorry.
Isn't there a density requirement for
Yeah.
MPO as well?
So what it is, that population threshold takes into account a number of different things. So it's not just the city and the townships. It's really, and there's this is actually done by the Census Bureau, an equation that they go through that determines what the urbanized area is, and that goes in and out of different political jurisdiction boundaries, and it's done primarily by that density.
And ours does include townships as well as the city for our
Absolutely,
urban
absolutely.
core. Those are the townships represented in TC Thales.
Correct. So in the case of this community, and I do have a map, but obviously it's the city as a whole, it's Garfield Township as a whole, and then parts of Elmwood in Leelanau County, a small piece of Long Lake, a small piece of Peninsula, a piece of Acme and East Bay. So
And the density there is expected to meet the threshold in the 2020
right.
census?
So in 20...
If they don't change the rule again.
Right, but the rule truly hasn't changed for some time, and so the population threshold is 50,000, okay? And this last census, we were at 47,000 and some change. So with all the models, and these are not done internally, but what we're told by our partners both in Lansing and DC, even a very conservative estimate, and certainly this region hasn't grown conservatively, that we will meet that threshold in 2020. The last thing I would mention relative to Thales is that it is, and one of the best parts about the last time we were able to be in front of you and talk about Thales is that many of you spoke up and said that there is a need and there is support for coordinated transportation planning in the urbanized area. We know for a variety of reasons, and especially coming off this summer, that the public expects and demands a high level of coordination when it comes to transportation. And Thales can be, pardon the pun, the vehicle for that. And it does bring together the political and technical aspects of both real and potential transportation projects for this region. And really is the body, I think, that can do that and do that well moving forward. I don't know, Jim, if you have any more comments?
Jim Crothers, City Commissioner, City Rep on Thales, and the current Chair of TC Thales. I'm just here tonight to support John Syke and the Planning Department for working with us and our contractor, Networks North, and Matt McCulley, to support the changes that you wanted to see from this organization as we move forward. We want to be proactive to your concerns, look at the budget, look at the format of the organization, and retool it so we can bring everybody back to the table to make sure we're there together working on our regional road issues. As many of you know, we've put $20 million towards our road this past year. Our roads, we've done a lot of work. We have a lot more work to do. We need our folks at the table. We need this organization to be there for state and federal funding to be monitored and accepted. So I'm here to support what your department's efforts have been to help us to retool Thales, and we're looking forward for your involvement and to become members again and work with us in the future. So thank you.
Matt, actually, I've got a question for you. Right now, the city of Traverse City is a member of TC Thales, correct?
Correct.
Is Garfield Township?
Yes.
And the Grand Traverse County Road, I'm reading, has now rejoined as a full dues-paying member.
Correct.
Okay. I was told this afternoon by somebody, politically, you really shouldn't vote no, Chris. But I'm looking at two different things. One is results. Two is, you got to tell me why, as a city taxpayer, I'm going to pay 3 times. I look at the city of Traverse City committing tax dollars to TC Thales. I now look at County Road Commission, which represents all of Grand Traverse County. And quite honestly, I think that the support does need to come from county roads. That is their bailiwick. It's not ours, in my opinion. So we've got the city of Traverse City and Garfield Township are already paying independently, and I happen to represent both the city and Garfield Township. The Road Commission, Grand Traverse County Road Commission, represents the whole county, and they're paying. And now, Grand Traverse County, you're asking me to pay a 3rd time, in my mind. And you're asking me to ask my residents that I represent in the city and in the township to pay 3 times when many others are not. I do, again, for those reasons, I will not be supporting it. I understand it's a very, very small dollar amount, but small dollar amounts add up, and I really do believe I'm already represented by County Road, by the city, and certainly by Garfield Township.
Right. So my response to that is that we are talking about the Traverse City urbanized area. And there's a recognition or a need for these MPOs because generally they represent an economic hub for a larger area than just that urbanized area. And that certainly is the case with the Traverse City urbanized area. When we look at some of the results, some of the products that we've been engaged in over the last year, we know, or in years, we know through origin and destination studies, we know the traffic volumes on these, and it's certainly not just the individuals within that urbanized area who are using the roads. We all know that every day during the summer. And there are people within the county, outside of that urbanized area, that come to the urbanized area and use that road network on a daily basis, and are also asking for a voice at the table to be able to express their concerns about or positive attitudes about the transportation network in the urbanized area. And from my perspective, and from the perspective of best practices when it comes to the MPO, to have an elected official from the county board be able to provide that voice on behalf of those people who are not in that urbanized area, it is an important thing. The road commission brings tremendous value and truthfully a very necessary value to an organization like MPO, or like TC Talos. But my opinion, and again just using best practices, that the county also being present provides an elected official voice of those community members that aren't necessarily within that urbanized area.
And from my perspective, I think the county is represented via the Grand Traverse County Road Commission. So, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
In your memo here, it says, lower cost and new dues schedule has been set that is more equitable. And you only have our dues on there. Can you give some insight into what the other dues are?
Absolutely.
Since you've made a statement that it's more equitable.
So I do have the sheet. I apologize, I don't have additional copies. I thought that you received that. But previously, the dues structure, let me back up. TALIS was established in 1990, and the dues structure was also set at that time. Unfortunately, there was no verbal or written record as to where that dues structure came from. And truth be told, there were 3 organizations that were really taking on the lion's share of TALIS operations, and that was the county, the road commission, and MDOT. And part of the concerns that we heard from this board was to come up with a dues structure that you can justify, that makes sense, that we can explain, and B, create a more equitable system. So right now, the dues structure is a 3-tiered dues structure, and it's based on population of the local unit of government, or the revenue in the case of the transportation entities, so like the road commission, Beta, that type of thing. So what it boils down to is that there's 3 different buckets. There's $1,000, $2,000, or $3,000. So all those, with the exception of MDOT, all those local units of government fall in one of those 3 buckets, and I'm happy to provide that. And so Grand Traverse County, previous to this reorganization and a relook at the dues structure, was at $13,450. And actually in previous years it was closer to $20,000. So this new dues structure represents a decrease of $10,450 for the county. And what happened to the other local units of government is generally they went up a little bit, again, to create more equity in the funding model. The road commission also was a significant decrease. That previously it was $17,500 for the road commission, and they also are at that $3,000 mark. The other thing that was done relative to the governing equity, if you will, there were a couple organizations that had 2 seats, and there were some organizations that, there was equal voting for an organization that was paying $400 versus an organization that was paying $17,000. All that has been addressed during this process, and I'm happy to share now or at a later time the bylaws and the local dues process, but it is in those 3 different buckets.
Okay, thanks.
Dan.
I have to agree with Commissioner Max Bauer on this. The dollar amount isn't the issue to me. We have a road commission. We don't do roads. I think it's redundant. So I don't think I'll be supporting it.
Bob?
What do you provide that's not being provided by other entities within the county or the city?
That's a good question. One of the things that we provide, or three things, that we are that convening entity that structurally, at least, it's not to say that someone wouldn't pick up the phone or something like that, but structurally, there isn't another entity that brings those transportation providers around the table in one spot. Two, that when we're talking about any real or potential transportation project in the region, if we're seeking any type of outside dollars, really, truly, if we're seeking local dollars, that there is a demand for some level of planning to support that, whether that be in working with the public, whether that be in data, what have you. So we provide that. And then three, and this is one of the outcomes that we will have in 2015, and we'll be able to share with you in future years. But working with MDOT, this is the body that creates the travel demand model for the Traverse City urbanized area. And what that essentially means is that if the community, the road commission, the county, or the city, or whomever, wants us to do scenario planning on any real or potential transportation project, that we're able to run the numbers, and we're able to see what does a 10% increase in South Airport traffic mean to 8th Street? What would a new east-west connector mean to traffic volume on the Parkway? Those are the types of things that we provide, those three things that no one else provides, at least formally, right now. Yes, sir.
We would still get that information through our road commission, though, correct?
Yeah, we are doing this, this will continue. Certainly we want the county at the table. From my perspective, I think, again, it's important to have elected official representation, and the county board can provide that. But those products that I just mentioned, I will be here next year talking to you about the results of all three of those.
Okay. Thank you.
I think what he was trying to ask is, does the road commission already do that?
Well, we would get those services through the road commission because they're members.
Yeah, and just to add, I mean, you know, we did have some, I guess, discussion earlier about TC Talus and what did they provide. So it does look like at least they did some due diligence and look hard at what they're doing and drastically reduce what they provide, you know, what the cost would be. I still, personally, I'm still not sure what we get for, even though $3,000 isn't much, I still am not completely sure that some of our other entities can't do what's going on.
Yeah, and I would, this notion of an MPO, and I know it's difficult because it's not in place, but it will be in place. It is coming. And it's really about preparing our community and setting the governance structures and the planning structures in place. So when it does become live, so to speak, we don't have startup time, and during that startup time, we're losing money. What an MPO does is it provides an opportunity for us to bring back taxpayer dollars and use those towards transportation projects. And if we're setting up an organization during the time when we can be looking to leverage those dollars, that's opportunity lost. And again, I think that, and this is more opinion, but we all know that when we're talking about our constituency, whether it be businesses or individuals or people who come to visit us, transportation in this growing community is always top of mind. And all of us have opinions, and we want to be influencers, truly, when it comes to transportation decisions, and this is an opportunity for the Grand Traverse County Board of Commissioners to be part of that decision-making directly and to be an influencer on transportation decision-making from here into the future.
Cindy.
Well, first and foremost, I want to thank you all for taking the time to go back, having listened to us earlier, and go back and look at your structure. I think we were a little disappointed in the evolution that had happened with TC Talos. I believe they'd become a little disjointed to us. I think the road commission felt the same way. I think we'd kind of went in kind of different paths trying to talk about regional transportation and all of those kind of things. I do appreciate the fact that you took the time to go back and look at your organization and see if we can gain some efficiencies. And I think obviously those efficiencies are gained because you took a 23-member board and dropped it to 10, and you cut our funding from $13,000 to $3,000. So obviously there's some efficiencies being created here. You know, I just always have a couple things about TC Talos. Number one, Talos, transportation and land use. We've never done land use. TC Talos was formulated for the purpose of regionalized study of transportation and land use needs. We've never done land use. But yet our name is still transportation and land use. So that's always been a little sore spot for me. I do believe, you know, or at least I hope the MPO certification or designation will come to us. You know, we thought we were there in 2010, but we weren't. We met the overall population, but we didn't meet the density requirement. You know, so as we all know, the urban community outside of the city of Traverse City, but still the urban community has continued to grow in our area, so we probably will meet that in 2020 unless they change the rules again. You know, so, you know, that's always the potential. My thought here tonight is I'm not sure that there's a purpose for me to say, yes, I'm going to rejoin tonight. You know, I think this is a consideration that we will take into our 2016 budget discussion. And that would be the time that I would consider, you know, having a discussion and a motion to join or not join, rejoin TC Talos. I think that makes sense to me more than jumping in November, for November and December. I would rather have this discussion as part of our 2016 budget.
Sonny, if I could just quickly respond. Part of our repurposing the organization, we did change the land use part. We took that out of our purpose, and it's now, you know, comprehensive transportation planning. So we're also talking about the idea of changing a name, going through the whole process of, you know, we're known as TC Talos, that's what we've been known, but because of the planning issue and the land use, that's one of the issues that we want to address. So we're talking about, as a board, doing that strategic planning to maybe change the name so it's less confusing to folks.
Thank you.
Tom, did you want to weigh in?
I had a
You've
question.
been on the board there.
Yes, I was.
Yeah.
The organizational structure now has changed in that you used to have a full-time project manager there, and now I believe there is not a full-time person, and you've rolled that into a staff position that has other responsibilities, and this is just one that's been added. The rationale for that, was it just not enough work to do, or what was the business reason for doing that?
I think, pardon me, two reasons. I would say both at a supply side and at a demand side. I think that certainly we were hearing from a number of partners that that the resources invested didn't match the outcomes. So that's a. But I do also think that we were and truly this board, this Ways and Means committee was a great catalyst for this. Is that looking for efficiencies in how we do this program, and I believe that we were able to identify those efficiencies and roll those into the job description of another person. And with regards to that, it's a person whose other work is very directly related to TAL's activities and our transportation related activities. So we are looking to be, as everyone is being asked, to be leaner and meaner. And I feel very strongly that the changes we've made, head to toe, we will be doing that in TALS, and we will be meeting or exceeding expectations in terms of outcomes as a result.
So that rolling in was one of the ways of cutting the membership dues, was you didn't pay the salary that you did before, and you passed it on to the membership. The Meade study was a $1.3 million, pretty expensive and extensive study. They struggled to get it out. How was that utilized, and in terms of any projects that have come back, what was the value of that Meade study in terms of being utilized for narratives and grants to relate back to this area?
A couple of things. It's surprisingly, it's almost becoming dated. We're looking at years now. But one thing that did was really acted as an impetus for more of the travel demand modeling that I mentioned before, and for us to partner with MDOT and create a travel demand model analysis tool that we can use as a community to look at different scenarios, and that's everlasting from that. And then also that study and then subsequent plans that came out of TALS constantly looked at corridors that are viewed to have the capacity or need to be improved upon, and both real and potential. That as part of the current guiding document, the Vision 2035 document of TALS that was adopted last year, there's a number of corridors, but there's 6 that are named that the community and the board membership has identified as critical for us to take a deeper dive on and to use supporting information like what you were talking about with the Meade and Hunt data to improve those. And let's be honest, when we're talking about corridors in this community, there is a great focus, and there will continue to be a great focus on east-west corridors. We are limited in our east-west mobility, and we are hearing from all sorts of directions that needs to be improved upon. And that there was some specific data work and report within that Meade and Hunt also that talked some about east-west, and that continues to drive discussion today. But I think the most lasting piece to that was our foray into using data, using analysis, and providing sound data analysis when we're asked to model different transportation scenarios in the region.
Are there any examples, Matt, of individual organizations that have taken that information and actually utilized it and got results from it in terms of grants or outcomes?
Oh, absolutely, including our organization, TC TALS. I think that in large part, and I can't speak for the road commission. You'd have to ask them. But MDOT, I know it was a heavy user of that, in large part because it was driven by them that they wanted that level of work and expertise for the Traverse City area.
This is the Meade Hunt study you're referring to?
There were flaws.
There were some flaws.
There were some flaws.
That's true.
And there will continue to be flaws. I had someone once tell me that all data are lagging, right? So anytime you put a number on a piece of paper, it's wrong the minute you show it. And I'm not saying that's the only reason why that was flawed, but what it provided us, and we are at our heart and at our core and history a rural area, but we know we continue to grow and grow, and in many ways we are becoming a smaller metropolitan area, and we will require the tools and resources to adapt and change to that evolution, and a big part of that are the transportation systems. The transportation systems, while for most of us are rooted in conversation about frustration and sitting at a light too long, but at the end of the day, the transportation systems are really the basic piece of our whole economic development in this region. It's goods and services and people that drive our economy, and all of those are on our roads and using our transportation network.
Just one last question or comment then. From a conceptual perspective, it's like motherhood and cherry pie. You know, it's nice to do. But as an organization that has a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, I need to get a return on my invested time and dollars.
Right.
And I think the struggle that people have is it's so big picture that it's hard to say, I'm getting X amount of return that I can actually point to. So if this organization committed $3,000 or $20,000, because in the priority of things, it's a nice to do. It's not mandated. It's something that you might like to do, but you're not required to do. So it has to be on that lower tier of discretionary funds. And in doing that, we need to know how I would measure in the budget cycle next year that we actually got a return on investment for that. So how would I measure and go back to this group and recommend that we do it again, because I can point to tangible results that hit the bottom line? Is there a way we can do that?
I think that there's a couple of things. That there will continue to be conversations by our local officials and our transportation agencies about transportation scenarios moving forward. And to be able to provide a data-driven analytical piece to those conversations so you can go back to the constituency and or funders and say, this makes sense. And that's a service that we can provide. The other one, from my perspective, is, and it is about, and you know this better than most, it's about leveraging dollars. And what we're talking about here is, in its total, while we're asking for $3,000 from the county, but in total local, $18,000. And how can we as an organization leverage that $18,000 into additional dollars, transportation dollars for the region? I think that's another measurement. So those are two off the top of my head on the spot. I'd be happy to identify some more, because I'm certain there's more. I personally, I like this conversation because it's always timely. Transportation will always be an issue for everyone in this room and outside of this room. We all have a vested interest in it, and generally, people want the same thing. They want a freer movement of goods and services and people. And I think that's exciting, and I think that there's real opportunity for collaboration around this newly organized, newly defined transportation organization. I think there's a lot to rally around, and truthfully, again, however this board decides to move forward, we will forever be in front of you discussing these issues, and these issues will forever be in front of you. So we're committed, and we're committed to providing the results, and the results that you asked for, and the results that much of the public's asking for.
Thank you, Matt. That's all I have, Madam Chair.
I guess it's down to me. I believe, I'm going to talk real quick. I believe I was the lone supporter of TC Tallis at the earlier meeting. I did not support the structure of it, as you were aware of. But I can't imagine a better example of a group that listened to what we said and is asking us for the opportunity to prove that they can do what we need. In January, this board unanimously approved a resolution to support a new east-west mobility corridor. This is how we do it. You need an MPO status and the funding. We cannot afford this new corridor, but we can with federal funding, and this is how you do it. Now, the Road Commission, I'm grateful that they joined back, and they're important, but the County Board of Commissioners needs to be at the table. And the reason being is exactly, I went before Jim's commission, the city commission, a few weeks ago. We need to talk about regional transportation planning. I've learned so much about planning from John and Jean. We have this phenomenal planning department at the county that I don't think was utilized. TC Tallis fell through the cracks, and I think part of that is the fault of us not allowing our county planning department to plan. And it's interesting because the townships and the villages and the city, they really hold the key to planning. They're in charge of zoning and assessing and all of that sort of thing. It's county planning is the regional, county-wide vision. And I'll tell you why I spoke in front of the city commission is, I didn't go there to tell a board that I didn't agree with their vision. That's the last thing I wanted to do. I don't agree with the vision of 8th Street, but that's not why I went there. I went there because we watch time and time again decisions being made in a vacuum in this county. And I asked the city if that is indeed their vision, that is their prerogative. They were elected to represent the citizens, and if they vote that way, then they do. But I asked them to consider their neighbors, particularly Garfield, since I represent it. We happen to be the proud owners of South Airport Road, which absorbs a lot of what I believe is extra traffic from 8th Street. So when you take one of 3 east-west corridors in town and you essentially knock it down to a 2-lane boulevard, and again, I'm not here to justify or not justify their vision, but you do have to acknowledge the effects countywide on those decisions. And when decisions are made in vacuums, if the city doesn't sit at a table like TC Tallis and doesn't discuss things with Garfield or East Bay and the neighboring communities, you lose that. And we are going to be moving forward, I hope, in search of a new east-west corridor, especially because I think we're down to about 2.5. If 8th Street, I know, was just voted, well, Monday, they will be voting, I believe, to continue the current configuration. So for $3,000, I am willing to support a probationary 1-year period with TC Tallis. Tom's right. They have to show mile markers and what they've reached, but how can they do that if we never give them a chance? And after our RMNA, I went to TC Tallis and sat through the meeting, and I talked, and they listened. And that's all we're asking for in collaborative efforts, is to somebody to listen. So while the County Road Commission is important, someone like a John Syke or a county board member, a county representative of the elected type that is representative and took an oath to guard our budget for the citizens should be sitting there, because regional traffic planning is critical to things that we are arguing about in our budget every day. So I would like to see us give this an opportunity for the fiscal year of 2016. If this board is more interested in maybe discussing that at budget time, the $3,000 allotment, I understand. I personally think it's time to make a commitment and stand alongside all the other entities that did, including our own road commission, and give them a 1-year opportunity to give us some tangible evidence that we are getting return on our investment. I don't think we can ask much more from anyone else. I would like to take that chance. Dan?
Well, NPO, I understand that, but does it, for us to get that status, do we really have to be at the table in this issue?
We need to be ready and prepared, because if we get...
I'm talking about qualifying for NPO.
Oh, we have nothing to do with that. It's, we're qualified by census.
So when you connect us joining this group, it has nothing to do with NPO, whether we get it or not.
If we get NPO in 2020, we will already have our plans ready for hopefully an east-west corridor.
Well, they will anyway.
But we won't have one of our voices on the board.
We have the County Road Commission.
We don't always agree with the County Road Commission. No offense, Jim.
All right.
And that goes to play. I think you'll see representatives in counties that are inclusive of their County Road Commission as a department. We are not. We are separate with separate boards. And on the other hand, we are elected where they are appointed. Christine.
You know, I sat in many TC Tallis meetings, and, you know, I still remember, because we did not have our plans in place, money went to Wexford County instead of Grand Traverse County. So I hear you on that point. However, I would prefer to see some kind of result I mean, it's a lot, it's easier to give than it is to take away. And I would prefer waiting and seeing what the new entity can produce as a result, because quite honestly, I haven't seen a result yet that I can wrap my hands around or that I think was worth the money. Certainly not the study that our administrator mentioned that cost $1.3 million. Now, if I thought that by donating or agreeing to spend $3,000 would get us another east-west connection, I would jump on it. But I don't believe that.
It's the vote.
I would much rather, I want to see a result. And out of that organization, honestly, I just haven't seen what I consider my money's worth yet.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, part of the result to me is the fact that they have listened and they have reorganized. And I mean, you know, that's a big leap from, was it 23 to 10? You know, it's, you know, we're going to be pinching every penny, but $3,000 wouldn't be hard to come up with and show us that we got some value for that either. You
If
know,
it opens up the door to millions of federal dollars.
We could do
for
a
East-West
one-year
corridor.
probationary, you know, so, but I mean, I'm very impressed. You know, we're not rattling you at all with some of these questions, and I could tell you're really enthusiastic and you believe in this, and that makes a difference, so.
Sonny?
Well, I think the important piece here is that we recognize the need for regional transportation planning. And the fact is, this board, our county planning department, do not have the ability to do regional transportation planning, nor does our road commission. We need an organization like TC Talus to be able to do that. You know, $3,000 membership here, there, you know, that's not the issue to me. The idea is we truly need a regional transportation organization. You know, when I sat on 31 going north for 25 minutes the other day because of the construction zone and I can't get through to turn on 72 headed west, or as I travel across through the new roundabouts on 72 at South Loudon Road, you know, I'm reminded about the need for regional transportation. Yes. But at the same time, when I came through Chicago the other day and set for 2.5 hours to get 3.5 miles, you know, somehow or another, we don't really seem to have much of a problem here, you know. But the fact is the citizens in our community need a regional transportation plan. The only organization that's available to us to get that is TC Talus. And if we don't continue to support them, you know, both spiritually and financially, I'm afraid they go away. You know, MPO status will not be to us until 2020 at best, which means we probably won't see money until 2022, 2025 before we'll truly see regional transportation dollars coming out of Washington to help us. But the fact is, if we don't have the players in place to do that, if we don't have the regional transportation plan in place, we don't even have the opportunity for that.
Well, I recently read the TC Talus master plan in my spare time, and
We really do need a life.
it just gets sadder every week. There's truly there is some merit to the plan, but it just needs so much more, and I think that would be a measurement of effectiveness, and I think you know that. So I would hate to see Grand Traverse County missing from that discussion. There's a lot of information about the overuse of South Airport Road right now. I mean, we are at maximum plus capacity, and the changes that are happening there. There's a lot that we need to consider, and I really would hate to have that discussion going on about east-west mobility without us there. So that's one of my main reasons for supporting that.
I had just one other comment, if I may. You mentioned that you would want elected officials there. I'm not so sure, with all due respect to elected officials, that they have the skill set that would really help in the long-range corridor planning. I think the person to your left and Gene Durensic and others in a very, I think, very highly qualified planning department would be better suited to do the drill down, to do the linkage and connectivity and the economic development and all the way through. So I disagree a little in terms of it having to be an elected official. Sometimes, if you hire the right kind of staff people and they've got the skill sets, they can add more value to that kind of thing, and then report back and educate and guide the elected officials.
If I may, certainly always the discretion of the entity, but and to back up a little bit and talk about the reorganization process, there's actually two boards, if you will, two committees. There's a policy board, which is comprised mainly of elected officials, political animals, if you will, and then there's the technical committee, which is planners, engineers, that type of thing. And really the logic is this, is that every, I think I said it already, every transportation project, either real or potential, has a technical and a political aspect to it. And that ratio differs from project to project, but it always exists. So the idea through this reorganization process is that 1 month that policy board meets and talks about some of the political drivers and parameters that should be understood relative to these transportation discussions, and then to be able to provide a guidance to the technical committee, those planners and engineers and those people like you just mentioned, to take the deeper dive and to say, okay, if we're talking about Project X, what does that mean in terms of how much land that would take? What does that mean in terms of local zoning? What does that mean in cost? The numbers, and then for that committee to report back to provide that cyclical approach to transportation planning, that you truly do have both perspectives engaged in the process. But at the end of the day, it is who the entity wants to represent their interests.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, I had 13 years experience with the MPO in Kalamazoo, and that was a pretty interesting process, because when you hit that MPO status, to get funding for your projects locally, they all have to go through that MPO. You're not going to access federal funds for your roads. You've got to go through that. So the votes were actually at times very tense, because there were communities actually kind of jockeying for position to get their road projects or their transit projects advanced forward. So it was a situation where you wanted to be at the table. And I think if I could say two things, one, in terms of the county board, if you are concerned and you want to support an east-west crossing of the river so that it expands our network, I think you're going to want to be at the Thales board and then being part of that. And I say that because the state is going to look for, if it's not just a road commission issue, it's a community decision. And if they're going to be looking towards, and granted, it's not an official MPO, it was established by the state and not the federal government, but they're going to be looking for that consensus among the community on that, and they're primarily going to be looking at Thales and what its decision is on any types of projects, but certainly that one, if that one's important to you. So you're there making a vote, and I think that's really important. The other part is, in terms of our operations in the planning department, we have a county planning commission that's looking at land use. One of the things we did when we recently adopted the new master plan is we worked on trying to consolidate or coordinate some of the planning efforts that were done along the Bay Shore, from Acme all the way to Graylickville, so 4 communities plus the county. Doing that probably would have made sense for us to be more involved with Thales, but quite frankly, we didn't feel like that was going to work, because we didn't feel like Thales was really operating very well at that time. So we purposely took it on ourselves to do it, because we think that's a really important corridor wrapping along the south end of the bay for the not just this community, but the larger region. But now, since there's been the reorganization, we're going to fold that effort back where it should be, which is in the technical committee. So I'd like to continue that, and if you're not members, I'm not a member of the technical committee anymore, because it's really an organizational membership and engagement. I guess I could participate, but no longer have any type of voting power. So if we want to do those where we connect the land use with the transportation, you do it with your planning commission and you do it with TC Talus. And the planning commission did actually have a look at that long-range plan last year, and they had some issues with it, and they were not very happy because they thought that plan could be a lot better serving the community. So you got a planning commission that is actively engaged and interested in terms of how transportation is done, and they see the correlation between land use and transportation. So I think it really positions yourself in a way to really, I don't see it so much in getting into the data issues and all that. I see it more projects and in collaboration so that you have a voice on these projects as they move forward.
Dan? Oh, just,
No,
you had your
I'm done.
hand up? Is there anyone else? Well, I'm going to make a motion that Grand Traverse County rejoins TC Talus for a one-year probationary period. How do you do your,
It's based on fiscal year, so October 1 is the fiscal year for the organization.
okay. Effective October 1st.
Support.
Moved by me, support by Wheelock. Any discussion? Bob?
One more time, I guess.
Here we
You know,
go.
I mean, again, you know, value John's opinion. I know we all value John's opinion greatly. And that final statement kind of brings it all home. You know, the road commission, I know that wasn't an easy decision probably for them to rejoin. So I'm sure you had a good amount of discussion with it too. I think you've listened, and I like what I hear, so.
I did go and speak with John shortly after our meeting we had earlier this year, and he sat down with a really great guideline of how they could restructure. And we brought that to TC Talus, and they listened. So really, the new organization is based on a Grand Traverse County planning suggestion. I know Jim is nodding because, you know, John has been critical in this change. So John works for the county and has the county in mind and county needs, and I was glad to see the dollar amount decreased. I didn't agree with that at all. I did not agree with a full-time payrolled employee for this, but I think you listened to all of that, and I would like to have an opportunity to see what can be done, because I'm not happy with our traffic in Grand Traverse County, and most of the citizens that talk to us aren't. And why would we deprive ourselves of the opportunity to maybe find some solutions for that? Dan?
Because of the codicil of 1 year probation, and hopefully we'll actually be able to see some results, I'm going to change my mind and support this. I do want to have a voice at the table, and you have impressed me in the way you have rehabilitated it. So I'm going to change my mind. I hope you guys, I know you won't disappoint us, so.
Carol?
I think that if we want to be leaders and leaders of change, we said change, and you did. So I think at this point to say, well, you did everything we said, gave us everything we asked for in an organization, and to at this point say, never mind, is not a good idea. So we did affect this change, and we asked for it, and I believe we got just about everything we asked for.
Well, the bridge, we need the Hartman Hammond Bridge.
Oh, go away. So.
Is that a motion?
Are you going to second it? So I think it would be a huge mistake to not at least give them the chance that they're asking for.
I think we'll come back at RMNA September of 2016. That'll give us a year. If their fiscal year is October 1st, we can reevaluate and look at markers of success or failure of the organization and discuss it at that time. I think that that's a reasonable time. $3,000 divided by 12. We'll see what we get out of it. No, I don't. Is there any other discussion on the motion? Why don't we do a roll call just for fun?
Lathrop?
Actually, let me take that back. I will amend my motion because it is retroactive with the date that it will need to be for immediate approval.
Okay.
Sunny can, we have an October 1st date.
Oh, we like supported it.
Yeah.
Lathrop,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Crawford,
Yes.
Klaus,
No.
Wheelock,
Yes.
Max Bauer,
No.
Cropa.
Yes.
Passed.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, John, Matt, and Jim.
Thanks. I look forward to the participation.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next is the Health Department, Public Health Emergency Preparedness in Northern Michigan Public Health Alliance.
And you know you're in trouble. We spent, what, an hour on the TC Palace, so.
Here we go.
Well, when they combine public health and safety and RMNA, I was like, there's going to be a lot of talk about TC Dallas, and it's okay. You have 3.5 minutes, Wendy. So if you
Well, actually, Mike's going to start out.
Mike, you have 2.5. That'll be great.
There's no action required on this first item tonight. So
You got it.
let Mike wow you first.
All right, we can try. Mike Leahy, Grand Traverse County Health Department Emergency Preparedness. Promise I'm not going to hit you with death by PowerPoint tonight. This is more of a discussion, just kind of an informational session. We were here 2 weeks ago and presenting an initiative to you, and I think that we missed a step. And that step was just some background information on what really is this. And I owe that to you guys, so that's why I'm here tonight. Public Health Emergency Preparedness Collaborative Efforts. What is public health emergency preparedness? If you hear me say PHEP, that's public health emergency preparedness. We work a lot in acronyms. If I drop one and you don't know it, throw your water bottle at me or something, slow me down. But public health emergency preparedness cooperative agreement through the Centers for Disease Control is an initiative by the federal government to help prepare state and local governments to build more resilient, stronger readiness for the next large-scale public health threat. Whether that's a large outbreak, a biological event, influenza, all hazards planning is really what we do, and we're focused on health here, health emergencies that adversely afflict the health of our residents. This cooperative agreement is a critical source of funding for these efforts, and since 2002, the CDC has put nearly $9 billion into these efforts. In addition to the funding, the CDC offers a lot of technical and administrative support to us. They were just here 3 weeks ago, helping us locals walk through how do we dispense prophylaxis to 100% of our community within 72 hours. I'm going to explain exactly what I just said there. Next slide. So, public health emergency preparedness, there's a lot that goes into this. Planning, exercising, training, coordination of relief efforts for large-scale public health threats. One of those is the Strategic National Stockpile. This is a federal cache that the federal government puts together with influenza vaccinations, medical supplies. We have access to an over 30-page document of what do we need during a specific event to support our community in an event. In addition to this stockpile planning, we practice exercising this. A lot of coordination goes into this. This is a big chunk of the daily operations of what we do. There's other plans, though, that we use. The continuity of operations plan. How do we sustain the essential health functions of our community when we're dealing with 3 outbreaks at the same time, like we saw last year? We got hit with 3 outbreaks at the same time, but we also needed to continue our health department core essential functions during that period of time. PODs, points of dispensing. How do we dispense prophylaxis or a vaccination to up to 100% of our population in the 72-hour window? Whether that's an influenza vaccination or an emerging infectious disease vaccination. We saw this. Ebola serves as the model organism as this, emerging infectious disease. What's in West Africa is a plane ride or 2 away from Grand Traverse County. That's what these situations and these exercises are trained to prepare for. When I say exercise, that's just a situation, a scenario that we build to test these plans, to sharpen what we have built for the community. Do they really work? Where are the loopholes? Where do we need to improve on? Receiving these mass prophylaxis from the state and federal government, in addition to coordination with response efforts and staff training, is a large part of public health emergency preparedness. Outbreak preparedness. How do we manage 3 outbreaks at one time? So how does this funding work? Well, the state of Michigan applies to the federal government, the Department of Health and Human Services, for PHEP funding, preparedness dollars. The state distributes this fund, the federal government distributes this funding to the state based off a number of parameters: population, critical infrastructure, perceived threat, perceived growth, and population fluctuations. Upon this number delivered to the state has to agree, we accept these funds, but we will hit certain parameters, deliverables, and objectives with these funding dollars for this fiscal year. So on your left, I know it's more for a visual cue, but you'll see exactly how much the state received in this fiscal year, over $16 million for FEP funding operations. To receive that money, they had to agree to that document on the right, the preparedness capabilities. This is really the playbook for the federal government. With this money, what do you need to achieve this fiscal year? Those are those plans, training, exercising, all those objectives, X, Y, and Z, that need to be achieved. How does this funding end up in Grand Traverse County? Well, under similar objectives. The state uses population, critical infrastructure, perceived threat, growth, population fluctuation, and gives a specific amount of FEP dollars to every county health department. They also give those funds to bigger cities in the state, like Detroit, or larger health providers, like a large hospital regional entity. These funds are distributed under the same agreement. This document here is our playbook. This is 40 pages long. This one was roughly 532 pages long. So this one gives us the day-to-day operations. This is the funds that we're going to distribute to you. What do you need to achieve? X, Y, and Z. Whether that's updating these plans for this fiscal year, doing an exercise, specific training, coordinations. The goal of these requirements is to build a more resilient, prepared community, better prepared for the next outbreak. How do we handle 3 outbreaks at the same time? The Emergency Preparedness Coordinator in each county is responsible for the allocation of these funds and ensuring that all those objectives are achieved and delivered to the state. There's a better way here. That's why I'm here today. Right now, there's a me in Grand Traverse County and a counterpart in Benzie, Leelanau, as well as Health Department Northwest. We're all doing the same thing. We're writing the same exact plans. We're coordinating the same exact exercises, same trainings, same coordination efforts, right next door to each other. A reduction of duplication is our objective here. We were approached in early June by Health Department Northwest to say, there's a better way to do what we're currently doing. This duplication is wasting some county dollars, wasting some money that we're receiving. We could be achieving more with what we have. So the budget that we speak of is 100% fully funded through these federal grant dollars. The things I did yesterday, today, and tomorrow are funded through those FEP grant dollars. We're currently in budget period 4 of a BP5 cycle. So that this budget period we're in started July 1 of 15 and goes through June 30th of 16. This approach more effectively and efficiently utilizes these federal grant dollars to better prepare our community. The overall objective of the federal government, to build a more resilient community. This process more effectively and efficiently does so. So there's no request for any additional funding here. We're just restructuring the way we're already utilizing these federal grant dollars. There's a better way. So what is that better way? The better way is in collaboration between the 3 health departments to coordinate, exercise, train, and plan collaboratively with our partners while responding locally. We can achieve the same plan that we're already doing 3 times by building one strong one, spending less time planning and writing one stronger one, as well as coordinating, exercising, and training. So Grand Traverse County Health Department serves as the lead agency in the pooling of these FEP dollars towards this collaborative approach. A preparedness professional remains within Grand Traverse County Health Department, true to the needs of Grand Traverse County, with the local mentality, but with the additional collaborative approach towards the planning, training, and exercising. That overall approach is the Northern Michigan Public Health Emergency Preparedness Team, with a director, a planner, an exercise training and coordinator, local support staff, and a local oversight board from all health officers. The creation of the collaborative plans, trainings, and exercising to more effectively and efficiently prepare our community is what we're presenting here. Getting more bang for our buck. We could better utilize these funds to get more for what we're already receiving from the federal government. It grants us the opportunities to really exercise and test our capabilities. And as the preparedness professional, that's the take-home message for me, is that these plans are already great. And we're doing a really great job already through the state size in our plans. And we've done some really innovative things. But we can be even better. We could take this up a notch. And that's through practicing and exercising our plans. By sharpening taking our plans off the shelf and exercising them, that's how we become more prepared. It's like a football team practices 6 days a week, plays 1 day a week. We get better through practice, and this opportunity grants us that opportunity to really hone our skills towards a response. A designated planner enables that by opening up time for a designated exercising and training coordinator to put those plans to the test. By participating in these collaborative exercises, we better prepare our staff for a more unified approach, because as we saw a year ago, outbreaks don't follow county borders. What happened in Grand Traverse County, we saw over in Benzie-Leelanau and our partners to the northeast. And this creates a more effective and efficient response to that. Instead of spending time trying to figure out how our partners to the east and west and north work, we work together on a daily basis. So we respond in one unified approach. But the public health staff of Grand Traverse County remains true to the residents of Grand Traverse County because these responses start and end locally. We're preparing with a more collaborative, efficient approach. By planning and coordinating with our neighbors, we take the plans off the shelf with our neighbors and really put them to work to exercise and hone these skills. It brings increased and improved planning and exercise training preparedness efforts that we currently just don't have right now. Through all those hours spent writing these plans over the same way, we don't have the resources and time needed to exercise to the capacity that this opportunity presents to us. It more effectively strengthens our ability to plan and prepare for the next public health by reducing the duplication of effort. So these are really great philosophies and objectives for preparedness individuals that get us excited, but what does this really bring home to the county, some tangible tactical things that we get from this? And right off the bat, we get designated planner whose sole responsibility is writing these plans, and a designated exercise and training coordinator whose sole responsibility is to exercise and critique these plans, build those scenarios that improve these plans for the public, along with a local oversight board. Increased exercising and training opportunities for our staff, which in turn creates a more prepared, better community. More efficient utilization of these funds and access to funds that we currently just do not have right now. I'll hit on that. More opportunities to really take our plans off the shelf and really put them to use for our community. The advanced coordination among our neighboring health departments is another critical factor that we can gain from this. Zero additional funding is required to accomplish this. This is simply just a restructuring of the funds that already exist. This is a collaboration, not a regionalization of our preparedness divisions. So there's a lot here. I'm not going to go over every line, I promise. This is more just for you to see. This began in early June. We were approached by Health Department of Northwest Michigan and suggest there's a better way to do what we're already doing, a more effective and efficient way to better prepare the community. So this process started in June, and we stand here in front of you in October with this process having gone through to a work plan development, that overall proposal that was made available to you. That's rather lengthy, and if you have any questions, please feel free to follow up with those. So when I said access to funds that we otherwise just do not have and increased resources and response assets that we just do not have, this is an example of that. Through that whole timeline, in our planning efforts with our local and state and federal partners, we were told, you know what you guys are doing is pretty innovative. It's pretty progressive for public health. It really advances the delivery of a core essential public health function, and that's the overall goal here. And there's additional funding out there to help support what you guys are doing, and that's this Health Innovations Grant. That's offered to by the state. This is strictly icing on the cake. What you're doing is progressive and advances the delivery of a core essential public health function, and we'd like to help you build a stronger foundation for that program. This was applied to through the month of September, August, September, that was a long time ago. And when I say access to resources and tactical things, this is $35,000 worth of response resources in operational sense that we just don't have right now. The way we currently operate, this is not accessible to us. Collaboratively, these opportunities are. We are protected in this. Through the development of this planning process, the administrative team sat down and said, this will work. This is set for success. However, we do need to protect ourselves accordingly. And it was under the state's recommendation as well that we set mid and end year self-assessments where we sit down and say, is this working for us? Are we achieving the objectives that we sat down initially to achieve? If so, let's continue onward. If not, what can we amend and adjust to get to those objectives? And if not, we can remove ourselves from that. And by removing ourselves from that, we just go back to how we currently operate. We're currently working on this with the attorneys to put this into that intergovernmental agreement that we spoke of for the month of November. So I know I spoke a lot. Sorry, I spoke a little fast, so I tried to speed it up a little bit. But what does this really mean? What, at the core of this, what am I really presenting to you? Well, we're not asking for any additional funding or any implications on the county budget. This is simply a restructuring of these federal grant dollars to more effectively and efficiently prepare our community. I could stand here in front of you and say on day one implementation of this operation, we're better prepared through our opportunities to exercise, train, hone, and critique our response efforts. We have immediate gains and opportunities of those resources, as well as access to funds and grant monies that we just do not have through this life cycle of this operation. This enables us to accomplish the beneficial things that a large collaborative effort can, but at the same time, we remain a local health department and keep our local health department autonomy. These responses start and end local, but we could plan with a bigger picture in mind. Because at the end of the day, it's our goal and my goal not to become the regional emergency preparedness program within Michigan. But as we look around the landscape of public health, in our neighboring states have all moved to regional health department structures. Our state alone has regionalization on the radar. This puts us in the driver's seat to say, we're not really willing to go regional, but we're more than willing to work collaboratively with our partners to build a stronger preparedness community. However, we're going to keep our local autonomy and remain Grand Traverse County Health Department. So this structure is not just the only collaborative effort. The Northern Michigan Public Health Alliance is also doing some great things, and Wendy's going to speak to you all on that. So thank you for your time.
Wendy, Health Officer, Grand Traverse County Health Department. That's a tough act to follow. And my Sudafed has worn off, so I will try to enunciate with my cold. Sorry about that. So the Northern Michigan Public Health Alliance is a collaboration of 6 local health departments and cross-sector partners like Munson and University of Michigan School of Public Health that represents 25 counties in Northern Michigan. I've presented about this alliance to you in the past. And the public health emergency preparedness model that we're proposing really builds on the mission, and that's to develop, implement, and sustain models of shared public health services that increase the capacity, contain the costs, maximize the assets, and more effectively impact the health outcomes. Again, we formed this alliance about 2.5 years ago. We started this exploration process, and it was really kind of then as a result of a lot of pressure from the state health department and even the governor's office on trying to regionalize potentially some of the local public health departments. We really didn't want that. We knew there was a better way that we could keep that autonomy. We like being, I like being an individual county health department, but we knew that we may need to do something because there was talks about certain grants coming out through these prosperity regions and certain projects being offered regionally only. So we did this 2-year strategic planning process, plus we explored all the different options that we could think of for cross-jurisdictional sharing. Herb Lemkel was the board member. He was the chair at the time, and he participated in 6 different meetings with me. We came up with 5 different goals. We formalized a charter that was signed by all the health officers as to how we're organized and how frequently we meet. There's no dues. We have a memorandum of understanding that was passed through all the boards of health, or in our case, our public health and safety, and then the full board here. And then we have a steering committee that meets monthly, sometimes in person, sometimes over the phone, and we assess our progress on the strategic plan, any grants that we're in the process of working on, and then looking for other opportunities and deciding whether or not they make sense for the whole entire alliance or just part of the alliance. We have a lot of expertise, specifically with community health needs assessments. This is something that local health departments have done across the nation for decades. It's a requirement for most states of being accredited or licensed. And what it means for us in our community is that we have participated in convening these for years, but most recently, Munson is now required to, a nonprofit hospitals are also now required to do one every 3 years as part of IRS requirements to keep the not-for-profit status. So we have partnered with them. We're in the process of the Alliance leading a 16-county community health needs assessment with funding from Munson and McLaren and one of the local health departments on the east side. But we will have the data that we need for just our individual counties as a result of the process. There's also broad expertise in the various health departments. We're kind of looked at as being very strong in public health preparedness, our communicable disease and outbreak response, and then maternal and child health programs. And we've had quite a few successes. Over the past several years, the Alliance has applied for and received over $4 million in grants to the region. It's focused on chronic health issues, maternal and child health. We have a new immunization grant that's applying to the whole region, and then some technology funding. We've received national recognition because we helped in the development of the success factors for cross-jurisdictional sharing. We were the first group to actually test out the roadmap process, as they call it. And just last week at our state Premier Public Health Conference, we received the 2015 Michigan Department of Health and Human Services Director's Award. And we received it for demonstrating excellence and innovative collaborative leadership in local public health. This is offered to one local health department, or in this case, this is the first time it's been a group. In the 30-plus years they've provided the award. And we received it. I have a copy of us hoisting the cup. I brought it with me. We'll have it for about 6-7 weeks, and then we're going to pass it on to one of the other 6 health departments that also received this. So that's kind of what the Public Health Alliance is. We also have a plaque. I don't know if you want me to, I don't think I want to pass this around. It's pretty heavy, but it's a very nice award that we received for our collaboration. So that's all I have on the Alliance. If you have any questions for Mike and I. No?
It was such a good report by Mike, I'm still trying to figure it out. It was pretty in-depth.
Sorry.
No, you did a nice job, Mike.
We cut it by about half,
Mike
too.
has a lot of drive. He was a football player from Elmhurst, and I know his background. I always like to measure things, and that third slide from the back seemed to be a much easier one to measure in terms of your program. The other was pretty subjective, and I guess in the context of a gap analysis, are you on an equal platform in terms of these programs with others, or are you way ahead and they're catching up, and then how do you measure, how do you write grants with a disparity in terms of competencies and skills in different departments?
Well,
are you talking about the preparedness initiative, or are you talking about the Public Health Alliance in general right now?
The Public Health Alliance in general.
I think we're all, I think there's a few of us who are a little bit stronger than the others. Health Department Northwest and Grand Traverse County.
Send Mike there, will scare him to death.
But we're actually stronger as individual entities because of our collaborative efforts.
Yeah.
We have strengths in different areas.
Okay.
So sometimes we have challenges maybe in offering services to our more rural areas that some of our rural partners have more experience with. So
You have an urban-rural mix.
Yes, we do.
Which makes it far different than just one urban or one rural.
yeah, I can tell you the steering committee is a great group to bounce things off of. We've done a lot with quality improvement in our maternal child health programs. And
Well, that's what I wanted to get at, and I'll ask just one last question. Of all of the efforts and all of the obvious success you've had, what are 1 or 2 things that you've brought out of this that's made your department better?
I think definitely the quality improvement. We made some major changes where we were averaging, I believe, low, like 2 home visits per person in our maternal child health home visiting program. And as a result of just some small changes in how we did it, we're now averaging 3.5 to 4 home visits per day.
Good for you.
That includes travel time and notes and everything like that as well. And one of the other things with maternal child health is we had a conversion rate of people who we offered one program to. We get funding if they accept. it was down in the 45%, and now I think they hit their all-time high, it's over 90%. And that, again, was just some changes. The immunization grant, we're just starting that process, but that we think will be a great regional initiative to help improve in children and adults immunization rates across the whole entire region.
Well, I've heard good things about your department, so you just reinforced that with your presentation, so thank you.
Thank you.
The next item, if you want to address the letter.
Yes.
I think
So-
we have the letter attached.
Actually, Tom's comments were kind of a good lead into this letter. The Health Department of Northwest they're the ones leading this community health needs assessment for the 16 counties. They were contracted from the 2 hospitals to lead the efforts. And they have the opportunity on behalf of the Alliance to apply for a grant which helps measure the effectiveness and efficiencies of this cross-jurisdictional sharing. Again, it's a requirement for both local health departments and for the hospitals, so it makes sense for us to partner on something. Pull the data once, pay for it once. And what we're going to do is measure cost savings, time savings, and quality enhancements to conducting the assessments and across the whole 16-county region. There's no financial obligation from Grand Traverse County. This is strictly a letter of support because you signed the memorandum of understanding. Forming the alliance in this particular grant requires structured letters of support. Not all of them do, but if it's a federal grant, they typically do. And really, it's the same levels of participation from our health department, which is primarily myself and our medical director, who sit on the steering committee for the Munson process, which will now be this regional process. And we present it to the collaboratives, the county collaborative group, and then Dr. Collins and I also sit on the Munson Community Benefit Dollar Committee that determines where some of the dollars go as a result of them being a not-for-profit entity. And it's based upon the goals and everything that comes out of these local health assessments.
Chris, the letter is from you. Have you had an opportunity to read the letter?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on letterhead on our desk.
You want me to read it?
She wrote a great letter.
2 pages. Everybody's going, no, please.
Sure, before there was
I could
any
read it,
motion
but-
for you to sign it, that you were good with it.
I'm fine.
Okay. Is there any questions at all? Dan?
Well, we had 2 things presented to us back to back. Are we going to vote on both those things?
One was just an informational thing. I think last time they were here, our board had a lot of questions about
Okay.
the program, so I think they were just kind of giving us that information to fill it in.
Okay.
And then this letter is just a follow-up with what we had
So
discussed.
the only thing we'll be voting on is the letter?
Right.
Okay, thank
Yeah, and I do need it
I know, I'm
effective.
ready.
Okay,
As soon as I
immediate.
get a vote.
So we need it for immediate.
They have to submit it by the 20th.
There we go.
All right. I would move to authorize the Grand Traverse County Board Chair to sign the letter of commitment for cross-jurisdictional sharing implementation and impact program effective immediately.
Support?
Moved by Maxbauer, support by Crawford. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Johnson?
Yes.
Crawford?
Yes.
Klaus?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes.
Maxbauer?
Yes.
Lathrop?
Yes.
Kropa?
Yes. Thank you, Mike and Wendy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharice is back. Discussion on lease agreement between Addiction Treatment Services and Grand Traverse County for the former work release facility for use as a probation residential services location.
Hello again. When I came before you in August about this process, it was a very quick thing at that time, and it wasn't real organized or anything then, and I was perfectly fine coming back again once we had everything worked out. Some of the concerns that were brought up that time were mainly by the Sheriff's Department, and they were very valid, so we've addressed those as well as the concerns of the prosecutor. We have a safety plan that was created by the jail captain that's going to be followed for that. So that really addressed those safety issues, which were very valid. And so we've really spent a lot of time working on that. I personally want to thank the jail for doing this. It's a lot of work on their part, as well as the prosecutor and Dean and ATS, and it has really been a lot that we've all been working on since we were here in August. And so I wanted to thank them for that. And I think we have a very good plan for this facility now. I don't want to on my face. what I wanted to explain to you more, and in the proposal that I gave you, is what changed between when I was here before and what's changed now with the state of Michigan and the funding for this program, because it was extremely significant. In community corrections, when we go and see a felon, so this just pertains to felons, when we go and see a felon and we want to place them in treatment for one of our programs, we have 3 different funding sources that we can use for them. One is Medicaid, one is a state block grant, and one is this PRS program. Medicaid pays up to $215 a day for treatment for somebody. The block grant is a little bit lower than that, and then PRS pays, for this particular program, it's actually $47.50 a day, not $48.50 a day. You can see the differences there in the reimbursement rates. The program has to provide the same services that's funded from Medicaid as was funded from PRS, so they have to provide the same services, but it's drastically different from what the state reimburses. Every year, the providers that provide this service to the state and to our agencies have to go through a renewal process. They have to renew their contract with the state of Michigan. Shortly after I met with you, we met with all of the people that had concerns. We got that all worked out, and it was going to really be going forward, and I was going to be back to you within a couple of weeks. And about a couple days after that, I got the news that the state of Michigan had not renewed a contract for any northern Michigan facility, except for one up in Houghton for males with 12 beds. So from basically Saginaw to the border of Wisconsin, there were no funded PRS, not the other places, but no funded PRS facilities for the entire 2/3 of the state. I didn't even know where to go with that, which obviously meant ATS lost their funding. So that put this PRS facility, wasn't even an issue at that point. And that just became my all-consuming job for the next month to try and get that remedied. And it was remedied somewhat. We had a facility in Alpena, we had a facility in Sault Ste. Marie, one in Petoskey, and the one here in Traverse City. We now have, it thankfully was approved by the state, we have the one here in Traverse City and we have the one up at Sault Ste. Marie. So we have lost the facilities in Alpena and Petoskey. So now we have a 50% reduction in where we can send folks with this particular program. When I came before you, this program was going to be a great asset. I was going to be able to do more. I was going to be able to put more people in our programming. Well, I'm always we're always asking, can we do more? I was going to be able to do more. Now, I'm just hoping this enables me to continue to do what we're doing, not do less. I think with this, I've done a lot of figuring with everything. It will enable us to continue with the status quo. Right now, this started October 1st with the loss of those 2 facilities. We have between a 3 and 4 week wait between the 2 different places where we can send folks for a client to get put into one of them. That means that they have served their mandatory requirement that the judges require of their sentence, and they're just sitting in jail waiting to get out to go into these. They are just spending extra days in jail. Those extra days in jail are costing us every time that they're there. The defenders have earned their jail sentence, but when our judges create their jail sentence, they do it in a manner because they want them to serve a certain portion in the jail as part of their punishment, and the other portion they want them to serve it on community corrections and get the treatment that we can provide for them. For these felons, this population that we serve, this is the only funding for them. There is no other funding through the Department of Corrections or anywhere that they can obtain it. This is it. So that's what's happened and changed for me since I came and saw you just a couple months ago. So I'm actually at a desperation point right now with this. It's no longer this is going to be a great asset and a great addition, and this is going to be, something nice and new that we can do. It's, if we don't do this, what the realities are, our ATS is no longer going to provide the service to us at all, and we will only have Great Lakes up in Sault Ste. Marie. We can, of course, truck our people down to Detroit, but I don't think that that is anything anybody wants. We do not want our folks going down and creating any more bonds with these folks that are already bringing these drugs into our communities. That is my personal opinion. it may not be the popular thing to say or the politically correct thing to say, but there is a vast difference between the treatment available downstate and those available in our regions. That's just, I'm being blunt when I say that. I don't want to send all of my people down to Detroit. Number one, I'm going to have to take them all there. That is just going to increase our transportation costs of taking them everywhere. Right now, I have a budget of about $8,000 for transportation. That budget was made with me driving to Alpena and Harbor Hall, in Alpena and to Petoskey and Great Lakes and Traverse City. If we can place these people here in Traverse City, I actually think I can reduce my travel budget by half. So it's going to save those dollars right there. So that is kind of what I'm here for you today is, and the prosecutor has something that, he's got information that he can provide as far as the contract with ATS and those things that they have worked that out, and he's met with the jail and worked those things out too. So he can address those things as far as the contract itself.
Well, I know that Bob had wanted to speak on the topic, so he has the floor here.
Yeah, as some of you may recall, I addressed the board back in August when this first came up, and I expressed a lot of concerns. I wasn't necessarily opposed to the program, but I just didn't know anything about it. And since then, I have met with Sharice and Bob and Chris Himbaugh from ATS and Todd Ritter from the jail and the undersheriff, and we talked about the reasons and the finances. But I think there were two main things that Sharice pointed out to me that are important here. Number one, we have trusted local treatment through ATS for drug and alcohol addiction. And when Sharice talks about taking our local people downstate to Grand Rapids or to the Detroit area for treatment, and she talks about sometimes these people come back and they discuss how they were given heroin by a junkie at those treatment facilities. That's really a concern, because this needs to be treatment, not causing more problems. And Sharice is very familiar with ATS, and they have an excellent reputation here, and we need to have the best treatment we can provide our local people, because we are in a serious crisis with heroin, not just in our county, but in the state. And I can talk to you about the numerous criminal cases that we prosecuted this year. But with this heroin problem that we have, another point that Sharice made is that we would lose about $75,000 in local treatment dollars for our residents, and that's if we aren't able to provide probation residential services through ATS. There are costs associated with not treating addiction, in addition to the lives it destroys. We had I had a family come into my office just yesterday. It was a mom and dad. They brought their daughter in, who is involved in a criminal case and was a witness in some other drug cases I'm prosecuting. That person has children who are going through a neglect and abuse proceeding. You all know how expensive our child care fund is. If you could have seen and talked to the family, the mom and the dad, and seen that they were people just like any of the other people in this room who have been greatly inflicted with this tragedy, the addiction of their daughter. I'll tell you, I talk to people like this, it seems like every week now. And there are, not just the cost to the courts and law enforcement, but also, like I talked, the neglect and abuse case, DHS, mental health services, crime and victims. The costs just go on and on as a result of addiction. And the best way that we can combat that is through good treatment in our community. I know that I spoke with Judge Power about this. Actually, he called me to find out where we were at with this agreement. And I don't think he would mind me saying that he was very supportive of making sure that we were able to make this agreement happen. I have provided a draft contract, which I prepared myself. I think it protects the county from liability. That was my primary concern, as well as some of the other concerns that I talked to the board at the beginning of this back in August. I do think that if you approve this tonight, that you should approve it subject to our review. There are a couple of issues out there that ATS has raised and that the sheriff has raised, and we need to work those out, but the basic contract is there. There's just a couple of details that need to be worked out. If you do have any questions about the agreement itself, I'd be happy to answer those.
Todd, was there anything that you wanted to add? I know you didn't probably stick around for just the fun of being at the meeting. No,
I think
it's a big party.
You know, the biggest thing for us, of course, was security concerns, and I think we have a good handle on those now. I'm satisfied with the answers I have and the input we were able to provide. The sheriff does have a couple concerns. I think those concerns we're going to address with some language tweaking in the contract, and that'll be covered. So they revolve around reporting and being able to look at things a little sooner than 6 months into the program and being able to track it a little better. I haven't heard any objection to that, so I think those are things that before the final contract's done, we'll have resolved. So,
is there any questions? Sonny?
Madam Chairman, I would move that Grand Traverse County enter into a lease contract agreement with ATS for the operation of a PRS facility and what I would call the work release facility, or the former work release facility behind the Grand Traverse County Jail.
Subject to
the contract being reviewed and signed.
I'll second.
Okay, moved by Wheelock, second by Lathrop. I do have a question as far as costs. I'm just kind of looking through the summary. Obviously, we're not charging rent, but this is a vacant building that we have been thinking of just disposing of or using for storage, that sort of thing. And it says here that ATS would be covering not only the renovations for their needs, but they would also be paying the utilities per month. Are there any costs to Grand Traverse County on this, other than not receiving rent on a building that we probably couldn't have rented out anyways?
Dean can address anything about those costs.
Yeah, the rationale for not charging rent, that came from me, but it was primarily because of the benefit that our corrections program and community corrections would have, having the additional availability of, I don't know if we're still at 10 to 12?
12, I think.
Which is, you know, when you compare that to the cost of having them in our corrections facility, I thought that justified that. But no, we are structuring the agreement so that they cover all the utility costs. Today we talked about the internet. They need internet access. They will be paying for that as well. And there are costs that they will bear for making the facility, you know, available for their use. But no, it's
maintenance. Is our facilities management department involved with maintenance on the building?
They would be to some extent, but I don't see that as being a significant cost. We do have a hot water heater to replace, but Sharice and I are taking care of that with some other funds that she has available to. And with that, the building is pretty much, it's ready to go.
The way the agreement is structured, the tenant is obligated to maintain the interior of the facility. The county is obligated to maintain the exterior of the facility, which is basically snow plowing and keeping the snow off the steps, I guess, that kind of thing. as well as maintaining the mechanicals. Any upgrades to the building at ATS's expenses would become the county's unless we reach an agreement otherwise. That gives you a better idea.
Well, I think what we've heard repeatedly this evening is the necessity for PRS facilities in our community and the need for treatment. You know, recently at the MAC conference, I was involved in a program and a rather lengthy roundtable discussion talking about trying to get people into treatment prior to adjudication. You know, and you know, those folks that get arrested into the jail and actually do not go to trial for extended lengths of time, trying to get them into treatment more immediately, and advantages of doing that. And the success rates of doing that are very high. But the long and the short of it here, folks, is we simply don't have the ability because we don't have the facilities or the treatment centers available to us. So we need to maximize the use of anything that we have available to get these people treatment rather than incarceration. That being said, I still tend to agree with our circuit court judges in that there has to be a punitive portion. Without a punitive portion, we cannot have that hammer, if you will, over the top of them to make sure that the treatment takes.
In response to what he just said about the pushes now, a lot of that is to go towards getting people treatment prior to adjudication. I came before you in May or June, and you guys approved a pretrial supervision program. That part of that is placing somebody into treatment prior to adjudication. That facility next door is available to be used for that. They are eligible to go to their court hearings. There is nothing that they can miss because they're in treatment right there. If we shipped them up to Sault Ste. Marie to treatment for 90 days, they're not available for anything for that 90 days, and it postpones everything. This is actually, that was part of this whole plan, was to be able to use that facility for pretrial supervision treatment for those folks. And it is part of the contract with the state of Michigan to also be able to do that, because that is part of their push too, is to try and get people earlier into treatment. Right now, we have folks that it will take 3 or 4 months for them to go through the whole process. There's nobody really supervising them. They're monitoring their drug test results, and that's basically all, and they're responding to those drug test results. If they're all negative, nobody does anything with the folks. If they're positive, they go before the judge, but it may take several positives and weeks before they're getting back before the judge. That's one thing we're addressing with pretrial supervision. We're literally going to be supervising those folks now, the felons, for that. And so I like that he brought that up, because that's exactly what you guys approved already for us to be doing, and we can do that too with this facility.
Any other discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job, Sheree.
Thanks, Sharice.
We are on to Resource Recovery Clean Sweep Grant, fiscal year 2016. Susie, I would assume?
Think she was asleep back there.
Wake up, Bob.
Good evening, Susie Shipman, Resource Recovery Department. The item in front of you is a recurring grant from Michigan Department of Agriculture, and the grant is in the amount of $30,000, of which a good portion comes to Grand Traverse County to help offset pesticide disposal costs at household hazardous waste events. And I'm looking at a grant period starting October 1 and ending September 30 in 2016. So it's for the current fiscal year for the state of Michigan. In the past year, I would like to look at 2014. The grant helped offset just over $5,000 of Grand Traverse County's disposal costs. And in the current year, we're looking at just under $6,400. So it's a significant benefit against that expenditure. So I would look for the board's support to accept that grant and go forth.
I would move to approve acceptance of the Clean Sweep Grant for fiscal year 2016 and authorize the chairman to sign the grant agreement.
Support.
Moved by Maxbauer, support by Wheelock. Any discussion, questions? Bob?
So it looks like there's 12 counties that share this grant?
Yeah.
Is it like first come, first serve, or how does that?
It's, what we do is we administer the grant for those other 11 counties and for Grand Traverse County. So it does take a little bit of time on the administrative side. And what that means in practical terms is that the invoices come from disposal contractor to Grand Traverse County. We then pay that and request reimbursement from the state of Michigan. And we're at about 25,000 for the previous 30,000. The prior year, the prior fiscal year, we actually exceeded and we were at about 35,000. It varies whether the state has extra or whether different sites or administrative sites need more or less. There is one actual small change that was made that I should mention. It has reimbursed for mercury disposal costs. Those are no longer being reimbursed, but this is a pretty minor detail. We had 30 pounds of mercury collected at about 83 cents per pound. It's a small expense over the course of a year, so it doesn't make a big impact.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, Susie.
Thank you.
We are on to the memo from Human Resources regarding county board approval for the county offices to be closed for business on Monday, January 18th, 2016, MLK Day, for the purpose of internal staff development. Is there any discussion? Oh, Dan.
What are they going to do on that day?
Who's gone to one of those? Kara?
I can speak about that.
Okay.
Historically, the Human Resource Department has scheduled some sort of a training, could be a customer service training or something like that. It's usually a half a day, and IT has also scheduled some trainings. I did something on my own with my staff, and because I have two departments, I had them cross-training and learning all about each other's departments because they didn't know. And we did our strategic plan. I know some departments take this time to catch up on work because they get behind, and so they use it for a slow day to just catch up on internal things.
What's the city doing?
They've done trainings before in the past, but sometimes they just do a catch-up day also.
Does anyone know what the city's doing this time?
They are closing.
They are closed. I'm not sure if they're going to have staff development, but, you know, the building will not be open to the public, so.
I understand that. I look at this, a quiet day, that doesn't cut it for me. You know, they're being paid for that day, and they should be doing some type of development. I don't dig it.
Like I said, the HR has usually come across something to train people with, but I think they're short-staffed and overwhelmed and probably can't really organize something for it this year.
At least not at this point. January 18th is
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do, but
Christine.
that's what we've done in the past.
But I'm not going to vote for a quiet day. I want something, you know, that's a lot of money that we're spending on people. And I want them to do some type of development.
Oh, Wendy.
Yeah, here's Wendy. The podium.
I would just like to say we've participated in both the previous county-sponsored trainings, and then last year we did a combination of some of the county training, but we do our own internal training. We have to get people certified for CPR, or there's certain things that we're required to do, but I would really like to use it this year for strategic planning.
Okay, let me make this. Why don't we have each department that's going to do this submit a plan, what they're going to do with this time, to our new administrator, and have him okay it or not. But just a quiet day, I ain't digging it.
Chris?
I was just going to report on past training days, because I have attended some. In the past, we have combined training with the City of Traverse City employees for just a morning, a half a day. And we have put on, the programs have been pretty much coordinated by our Human Resources Department, because the city didn't have one. And it would include personal safety, and it was, a series of educational training things. And we'd have them out at West Senior High. That was one location when we did a joint meeting with the city. But they have been formal trainings in the past. They are not always formal trainings. As Wendy mentioned, some of her employees are required to have CPR, et cetera. The Commission on Aging is also required because they work with respite and that type of thing. They're required to do some employee training, and in the past, Georgia, I know, has taken care of that with COA. I can only speak to the departments I know and what's been done in the past. I do like your idea, Dr. Lathrop, that we ask the department heads to give a summary of what they are planning for their day to our new administrator. I like that very much.
I'm just Googling. I guess I'm a little bit confused. So it's a federal holiday, so the government building is shut down. I come from the world of self-employment where we work 7 days a week. So I'm just trying to gather this. And the employees are paid, and they aren't paid extra for a holiday. They're just paid like a normal work day. But because, and according to the U.S. Department of Commerce, you do not have to shut down a government building on this day. So we could have the building open for business, but the city chooses not to, and we share a building with them. So therefore, our employees are here, and employees like Bonnie's staff that normally receives public and does work with them, the public isn't in here. So the question is, what do you do if you come to work? Because apparently, this is not a federal holiday that our employees have off. Am I fine?
Correct.
Because those are written into union contracts, is that how it works?
The courts are closed because they're state.
The courts are.
They run on the state holidays.
Okay, so I guess I'm just trying to figure out, so they come to work, there's no people here, they're still getting paid to come to work.
There's still a lot to do when there's no people there too, though.
And Veterans Day is coming up, is this the same thing for Veterans Day?
Veterans Day is a holiday per most of the contracts.
So this has to do with the union contract?
Correct.
That's where I would...
If I could, as Commissioner Maxbauer has stated, in a lot of years, the Human Resources Department has put together a training day, and we have coordinated that in some cases with the city and TCAPS. But with the staffing and everything that Human Resources is doing right now, they don't feel, and I agree, that to put together a quality day. And keep in mind, not all departments, I mean, you have your sheriff's office and 911 that are running as normal. In my case, I'll speak just for the finance department, it's year end for us. We'll work on closing the books. I mean, we can work, but there is some merit, I think, to having what Commissioner Lathrop requested. There should be, we've done strategic planning, we've done internal staff development, IT has provided, some training on technology, but it will not be a quiet day. I mean, if we're here, we're going to be working. I know the departments, everybody has different needs, but we thought that we should at least bring this to you for consideration, and rather than have everybody doing their own thing, perhaps the board should say, this is what we would like you to be doing with this day, so.
I just want some accountability. You know, I've heard rumors that they're going to clean or dust their departments that day. You know, I want some accountability. This is a whole day.
And there's a lot of departments that don't serve the public. Like, for instance, I'm sure planning will just go about their normal day that they do. And Parks and Recreation, I believe, is open that day. The pool is open, at least it has been in the past. So I'm sure Dan's idea seems to make the most sense because individual department heads are going to know best what their staff is.
Well, and they could leave the county side open and turn off the lights on the other side.
They've done that.
Because we used to,
Oh.
we have Veterans Day off and the city does not. And it is kind of confusing for people. They come in and the county side's all closed and the city side is still working. And then Columbus Day, people thought we were closed that day because the radios were saying we were closed. And we didn't get any mail on Monday. But we still, a lot of people still came in, but I don't know if everybody would even know Martin Luther King Day was a holiday, and so.
I do. My children are home from school.
Kids are home.
Yeah, it's a long
giveaway.
day. We could bring them all, we could open up a big daycare for all of the parents in the county.
Please.
Yeah, I mean, the way I kind of look at this is if you have any mandatory required annual training, it might be an opportunity to have some departments do that if the public thinks it's going to be closed without interfering throughout the year than some other day. I mean, I know it's hard to get everybody together in departments for training all at once. It's probably impossible, but that might be an opportunity to do something like that.
I have to tell you, one of the trainings I really would like to see, a couple years ago, was it you that did, in the Hall of Justice, they did a simulation of people breaking in, guns going off, and what every single department was supposed to do. Emergency...
They had emergency drill.
Drill, and we didn't get it in this building, but I thought, gosh, you know, it'd be nice to know if somebody came in, where are we supposed to go? What are we supposed to do when the guns start shooting? And
That actually might be a good tie-in with the sheriff's department.
Yes.
To say, use a good day for that, because that's, unfortunately, in the society we live in nowadays, you know, that could come.
The more interesting model is pulling in your local fire and police as well. I mean, they have hours that they need to train. For instance, at the mall, like Greg put together an active shooter drill that brought in city police, metro fire, city fire, you know, and brings it in. I assume it would be the city responding to our emergency here, but there could be an opportunity for other community entities to get their training hours as well, because they just enjoy the opportunity to have a real-life scenario in a large building that a lot of people would be in. And there's ways to tie that together, and there's even grant opportunities for funding things like that. And it would tie in the employees and as well as some of the first responders. There could be a way to use it creatively. I'm still trying to grasp that you don't get to work on some days. Dan?
We just argued for an hour over $3,000. 500 employees were paying to be there.
Precisely.
They should do something.
You could have voted quickly on TC Callis, and that would have stopped.
Every time you've looked over here, Madam Chair, our administrator has raised his hand, and you're not
You have to
catching it.
yell at me. You know, Tom, I am so thrilled you're here, but
I was enjoying the conversation.
Had anyone in the seat
It
there
doesn't
for a
sound
while.
like there's an immense amount of direction on what's going on, but it's going on. I don't have time to get to that right now. I can tell you what has worked in the past in a number of organizations is you develop a curriculum architecture for training and you make sure it's geared to something that has cross-fertilization across all the lines. An example would be customer service training. But it just isn't a one day, this is what you do, not how you do it, and you go out and do the same thing wrong on Monday, but you're motivated with it. And we did this at Beta. We developed a common service vocabulary that's on instructional design that's participatory. It's not someone getting up and lecturing. It's actually a learning methodology where you're practicing. They call it instructor independent. So anyone in this room would give the same course because the learning is on the people in the room. the way the learning methodology is. That's good training. It's more expensive to develop. But eventually what you want to get is to a curriculum architecture that maybe you take something like customer service training and you implement it not just on that one day, but throughout the departments. But what you do on that one day is you follow up. And then you can reinforce that, and maybe other things besides that. But what you need, and it should be driven by HR. HR is the one that should be driving this process. So we'll get organized and we'll find out what is a common need throughout all the organization. For example, if you want to increase your brand, you need better interpersonal skills no matter where you are in the organization, internally and externally. And so we can develop a curriculum that we can build into when you have a day like that. Then you take advantage of it because you've actually got substantive things to do. And so someone like Commissioner Lathrop can't say, what are you going to do during the day? You can say, this is what we're going to do, this is how we're going to do it, here's the expected outcomes. We can even validate it by validating behavior change after the course in terms of pre-skills and post-skills, and then 6 months later. And we'll get to that. It's just you haven't done that before, but I've done it before, we'll get. I just don't have time next week to do it. But we'll get there because what it does is it drives the brand and it drives an awareness. And I tell the people, for example, in Beta, you know, you go through that checkout clerk at Myers and you've got that Beta thing on how you interact with those interpersonal skills is direct reflection on Beta. Same thing here. And so, but it takes an awareness of what those skills are. And we'll get to that. But those are good points. I would be uncomfortable, too, if I was in your position, because I've got 500 people, X amount of dollars going out for their compensation, and I'm not sure if we're going to get any return on investment, or if anything is going to be different than what they were doing that day. And if we're going to let them do that, I expect some different behaviors on the day going forward than the day that they started. So all good points. I'm aware of it. I just can't get to it next week, but I will get to it.
I feel better.
One thing that we have to remember, of those 500 employees, 70% of them are involved in the personal safety businesses of the community, and they're going to be working anyway.
Yeah.
So the number of people that we have is not 550 people. It's 150 people. But I think the thing is, at this point, I am certainly all about making sure that the departments come to us with some sort of a plan of what they're going to do. I think what we need to do at this point is to announce to our staff and our public that we will be having a staff development day on January 18th, and the offices of the governmental center will be closed. I think that's what we have to do at this particular point in the program. What we put together as far as trainings for individual departments or overall staffing, that we can flesh out within the next couple months. But in the meantime, we need to give our staff and the public as much notice as possible that we will be closed on January 18th.
I think, Commissioner Wheelock, it is important that we train people, because you don't value people you don't invest in. So that sends a good message. If we care for you, we want you to be a part of an organization, we'll invest in you. And I'm planning, hopefully I'll get through it before end of December, but I'm planning on having a department head and maybe their immediate direct report come in and do an overview for me of the department. In that process, I will talk about that day and what they could be doing, and we'll start the process of thinking how you could add value in terms of, if you have specific needs, even like training for them, could we implement that and get some real value out of it. Then maybe the next year we'll get the HR department to give more of a curriculum architecture for structure, and then we can do some cross-training, cross-fertilization, things like that. But yeah, all good points, they're valid. We just need to get the organization to the point of being able to do that.
I don't think we need a motion.
No, I respectfully disagree, sir. That I think we can wait till December until we have something in front of us to say this is what we're going to do. I think that's more than enough time to let the public know. I'd like to see at least some type of plan, or what they plan on doing. That was redundant. What they want to do as far as that time and using it wisely in an effective manner. So
I'll do the best I can with that, but again, it's indicative of my need for an HR person in there that can take that, because someone heading that department, I'd say, get this done, this is what you need to do. I don't have that, but I'll do the best I can before that.
And our HR staffing department has been overwhelmed for number of months now, and we still haven't selected a new director.
And it could be as simple as even just saying, look, in the morning till noon, everything's normal. In the afternoon, you're going to have some training or something.
You got me thinking on something, and maybe that would be a good time that we do a PowerPoint presentation on some of the changes taking place and lessen some of the anxiety that people have, and just kind of educate them on that a little bit. That might be a good vehicle to do that, to say, here's where we're going, or here's where we're going to be working on, and things like that, if we're ready to do that. That might be something that would add value, because there's a lot of concern and anxiety as to what's going on.
It could be a to be continued. At this point, I don't think we need to take any action on it. The county staff report was included in your packet. Were there any questions or anything that anyone needed to point out?
It was a long one.
Yes, it was. If not, we'll pass over to county administrator assignments.
I'm here to protect myself, I'll tell you.
Included in your packet is a list of the current administrator appointees since the vacancy of our last administrator. And we now need to discuss who will be serving as the administrator on these boards. So we're going to throw you right into the fire there, Tom.
I see it.
Yeah. And obviously you are the appointed, but would be officially appointed by our board, unless if you choose a designee or would like to take time to choose a designee. Obviously, we're not putting you on it right now. However, I would make a recommendation that I would like you, if possible, I understand you're not full-time exactly yet, but it would be important to have you serve on the implementation team and the project managers team for the Boardman dams. Those are integral to our budget discussions that are coming up. So that would be just my one.
Well, Madam Chair, did you want to make the appointments tonight? Is that what your objective was?
We do make appointments at RMNA. We certainly don't have to make all of them. If you need time to consider representatives, or if you need to work out your schedule, there's, as you can see on here, there's a couple of them. For instance, the revolving loan fund, I don't believe has met this year at all. Has it, John?
It is coming meeting, and I asked John to go for me already.
So John is, there you go. John is, can be the person.
Yeah, that one has not, that's now with the Chamber Foundation, it's with their Venture North.
Yes.
So it's just a representative from the county. The agreement that we have with them, it can be the county administrator or his or her designee. So Tom has asked that I fill in for that position for the time being.
I told John it would be a good personal growth opportunity for him, but he's smart enough to know you don't want to get too many of those in life.
Personal growth opportunity is a very fancy way of saying something else.
It's all yours.
It's your job now.
So the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority meets at 8 a.m. the last Wednesday of every month. I serve on that board.
And that's when Tom's Beta Board meets.
Well, I will look at this first. I've seen some of these, and maybe I could talk with the board chair. I don't know how you feel about it, but my feeling is if I have someone from the county there, I don't know, two people being there makes any difference. So, but it would be a case like if you said, I don't want to go there anymore, then I would take that, So why don't I, in terms of next steps, just discuss those and see which are ones that the board would consider as critical for the administrator being there to be able to report back. Implementation team and project teams for the river certainly is one, of course, because of the financial ramifications. But we'll talk about that and get back to you on what we think. And then if there's some I don't want to be on,
we'll have John be on them.
Just
volunteer Personal growth opportunity for John.
And maybe some other people would like some personal growth opportunities. Dean's been awfully quiet here beside me. I see.
Waiting to watch the list.
He's just flipping through his book.
No comment.
Dean doesn't need any more personal growth, he can tell you.
Dean said silence is golden sometimes. I guess this is one of them.
Okay, well, that is a to be continued.
Yeah.
I'm going to move on to unfinished business. Number one, the BIA appeal. This appeal concerns parcel 82, the Hoxie property along M72, and the decision of the Bureau of Indian Affairs Director to place the property into trust on behalf of the tribe. This was discussed in a closed session with our attorney. Do I have a motion to accept the decision and order the U.S. Department of State Interior Board of Indian Appeals to accept the decision and order of the U.S. Department of State Interior Board of Indian Appeals and to not pursue an appeal in that matter?
Madam Chair, I would be honored to make that motion.
Dana, a second. Okay.
We have thirds and fourths.
We have a motion by Max Bauer, we have a second by Lathrop. Do we have any questions at all? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. The next item is again along the same lines from that same closed session. Chris?
Yes, Madam Chair, I would move, you all have a letter regarding the budget to the Circuit Court for my signature, and I would move to authorize the chair to sign the letter regarding the budget to the Circuit Court.
Second?
Is there any discussion at all? Sonny?
The only question that I have is, would it be appropriate to send all departments, not just the Circuit Court, a letter asking them to provide us with a detailed budget request for 2016? You know, I understand.
This was a matter
understand.
discussed in closed session, so we're going to have to refer to our counsel for that.
Well, this was requested by Commissioner Max Bauer based upon a Supreme Court administrative order, and I don't think it would have effect on other departments the way it might have some effect on the Circuit Court.
I understand that this letter, the way it's drafted, is specific to a Supreme Court decision in regard to the Circuit Court. I'm just saying, as part of our budget process, do we also want to ask other departments for detailed?
All other departments do submit line item budgets, so I don't think it would have any.
If we have those, we're fine.
Is there any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. We are on to new business, I believe. Do this properly. New business, resource recovery, solid waste plan, budget, etc. Commissioners Wheelock and Max Bauer.
You want to?
Go ahead.
Oh, sure.
He just want to call you a goat head.
We have, there are a couple of aspects of this I want to look at regarding resource recovery. And I want everyone to understand that my goal is to improve service for less cost. And I will give you an example of how I was able to do that, starting the ball rolling in the city of Traverse City. When I was in an off year, when I was not running for office, I printed up flyers and I went door to door on the west side of Traverse City, which I represent, and Garfield Township, and asked residents to voluntarily change to one waste hauler. And the goal was if we had enough residents, enough volunteers, and it wasn't mandatory, if we had enough volunteers, the Waste Management, who was the contractor who agreed to work with me, agreed to lower the monthly cost for trash service to $10 a month and include recycling. And that spurred on the city of Traverse City and Peninsula Township to bid out their waste hauling service. In the meantime, I and Commissioner Wheelock, who was with me on the board, we were supporting curbside recycling. All that led to the city of Traverse City used to have an annual pickup day where they would take furniture, et cetera, et cetera. You had to put it out in the alley if you lived on a street with an alley like I do. The city of Traverse City used to pay tens of thousands of dollars every year for that service and got it included in the bid. So I want everyone to try to grasp the concept of being able to do more for less. And we did. We slashed some people's waste hauling bills in half, and we increased recycling countywide. And in the meantime, Commissioner Wheelock was sitting with me on the board at the time. We reduced the tipping fee, the landfill fee, and that is a surcharge. It is a tax, primarily paid by the businesses in Grand Traverse County because they generate most of the landfill trash. We were able to lower the tax that residents in Grand Traverse County pay and improve service. So that's where I'm going with this. I would like to look at bidding, well, actually, I would like to bid out resource recovery, the department as a whole. I also would like to reduce the tipping fee. We have a sizable fund balance. That's a tax. This is an opportunity for us to lower a tax for Grand Traverse County residents. And I would also like to improve service. I would like to make household hazardous waste more accessible and more frequent. I would like it to be more convenient for Grand Traverse County residents, and I don't believe that, well, I believe there's room for improvement. And by working with independent contractors versus an in-house department, and keep in mind, we've had this discussion about other departments in the past, and we're going to have this discussion about departments in the future. But I truly believe this is a real opportunity and another component of it is the education. I truly believe we have an opportunity here if we work outside of an in-house department. I believe we can improve education. Recycling education for county residents. So I really view this as a win-win-win, and I would like to move forward with looking at what I just suggested. Commissioner Wheelock, would you like to weigh in?
Oh, well, you know I do. So.
I know you do. That's why I'm asking.
This is the Grand Traverse County Solid Waste Plan, start to finish, including the amendments. We have an opportunity, you know, for a long time I've said Grand Traverse County should be promoting recycling, not doing the recycling. I look at our resource recovery department and, you know, it's evolved along the way. We have 2 full-time employees there. We no longer operate drop-off sites. We have contracted out our battery recycling. We contract for our household hazardous waste through, it's not Drug and Lab now, it's a different company. Okay. So it's a different company. But the fact is there are other opportunities to do that. Possibly we can make it more efficient. We have a fund balance in that department of $400,000 approximately. $495,000, $500,000 of fund balance.
Isn't that awful?
We're spending $150,000 a year on personnel costs, and what are we getting for it? You know, we have a Recycle Smart newsletter that goes out electronically. I receive it. We publish a recycling guide. We currently recycle batteries. We have drop-off sites in most all of the governmental buildings where people drop off batteries. And then we contract with GTI to pick up those batteries, package them, and send them to the appropriate place for recycling. We currently license all of the haulers. We collect a $25 annual license fee, whether it's one pickup for a yard waste hauler, or whether it's American Waste that's running how many trucks up and down our community. It's still the same $25 a year. I'm not sure that it's ever made any sense to me, in my mind, and I've been involved a long time, it's never made any sense to me that we're collecting $25 for a license that we can't police anyway. You know, there's no way that we can police a license for people that are hauling yard waste. It's not possible. We do operate a brush drop-off site for probably 5 months out of the year, approximately 6 months. Yeah, something like that. You know, I don't know, and I was trying to figure out the other day, and I just simply didn't get time to do the research. Is that done on a city-owned piece of property, or does the county own that parcel of property?
I believe it's both. I mean, there's a part of it that's Commission on Aging, but the brush drop-off, I believe, is city-owned.
City property. You know, but again, we collect $3 a cubic yard for the trash when it comes in. At the end of the day, we just paid to have 7,000 yards ground up. Did it pay for itself? Or did it? You know, it's a service that people want. It's a service that people use, but it doesn't come without a cost. So maybe we look at contracting that out. Maybe there's someone out there that would be willing to operate a brush collection site either there or somewhere else. Household hazardous waste, I really think that this community needs more. Well, the solid waste plan calls for 3. The last 2 years we've been able to accomplish 4, but we have more need for that. There are companies and individuals. I spoke with a lady the other day that operates household hazardous waste for 7 counties. She does it under contract. She takes care of all of the scheduling. She takes care of drug lab or whoever she's using. Takes care of the whole thing. Well, I can take that $400,000 or $500,000 I have in the bank. I can contract for that service, and we're really through it. The catch comes in reporting. When I read the solid waste plan, we probably can meet pretty much all of the county solid waste plan requirements without having any personnel or any department tied up to it, because of the fact that the direct oversight of this department is the responsibility of the Board of Commissioners. That's the way the solid waste plan is. However, Ordinance 17, the county solid waste ordinance, will require some amendments, because there are specific responsibilities that are in there that are set to the Resource Recovery Department. There is the licensing requirement and the tracking of waste that is assigned to them. I think we would have to look at Ordinance 17, and I had all intentions of talking to Bob about that, but I just flat didn't get to it. This is certainly something that can be talked about. This is an enterprise fund. We are not putting any general fund dollars into this program and haven't for a long time. So if you think by eliminating this department or doing whatever, we're going to save general fund dollars, we don't. Because this is an enterprise fund. All of the money that is spent here is either the HHW grant, the Clean Street grant that Susie talked about earlier this evening, or it's money that's been derived from the tipping fees at the landfill. And tipping fees are always a very big variable. They're contingent on proper reporting by the landfills to how much tonnage they took. And we've watched that number go all up and down the scale over the years. We've seen it be very, very high, and then it's dropping off at a rate of about 10% per year. And I said, well, soon we won't have any solid waste going to the landfill, so we won't have any revenue, and we won't have a solid waste problem. But we all know that's not going to happen. The tipping fees I've always opposed, because 70% of the waste stream comes from commercial and industrial waste. The restaurants provide a very vast amount of that, and we are penalizing a small portion of our citizenship by collecting the tipping fee. And I've always opposed it. I'm pretty sure I have never voted for it one time in 20 years or more that it's been in place in Grand Traverse County, and I probably wouldn't vote for it again even if Chris reduces it to 25 cents a ton. I still won't vote.
You'll vote for a reduction,
I still won't
won't
vote for it. But this is one of those departments that we can truly have a discussion about if we are operating it in the most efficient manner, or if there's other ways to do business that may or may not be better. one of the things that we have to remember with these county employees, there's also going to be a legacy cost. So we have no provision in place that I'm aware of that will take money from that enterprise fund and set it aside toward those legacy costs for those people that will eventually leave. So even though we can sit here and we can say there's no general fund money for it, there is an accumulated legacy cost that the county is going to recover.
I don't think it's legal to use tipping fees for benefit. I don't think it is. I mean, we would have to look, but I
Well,
don't.
we use the tipping fees to pay their salaries and their benefits.
Right.
Is there a legal way to make sure that we recover the legacy costs? I don't know the answer to that. It's just a question that I have in my mind.
Good question.
Yeah. Christine?
I'm going to make two motions, and they're very separate. I am going to move that we request a recommendation from our finance director to what he would recommend to reduce the tipping fee to a reasonable amount. And without talking to Commissioner Wheelock, who believes it should go to zero. Is there support?
I'll support that.
Thank you. Dean, is that?
I'm fine with that.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any discussion by commissioners on it? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, next one.
I am going to move that we request our contract HR representative to work with whomever she believes is an appropriate consultant to write an RFQ for the Resource Recovery Department. I don't know if I said that correctly, but that's as close as I can come.
We need a second before.
I will
Okay.
support for discussion.
Thank you.
One of the discussions that I think about that is I would like to, instead of preparing an RFQ, I'd like to prepare an RFP, or
I'm good with that.
Instead of a request for
I'm good with that.
qualifications, I'd like to see a request for proposal, because I'd like to have those people that are talking about possibly contracting to do part of this, to outline for me what kind of services they're going to provide and what they can do for us for X number of dollars. I can go out and I can put out an RFQ, and then I find out who's qualified to do what I think we want, but then at the same time, they may have other ideas of things that they can do, and even if I do the RFQ, a lot of times we do the RFQ and we have to turn around and go out and get bids after that. If we put it out for an RFP and they outline the services that they can provide for us for an X number, or for a certain amount of dollars, then we have something that we can really see what we're going to get for our money.
I said RFQ, but I meant RFP.
I think I heard RFP on that. Pretty sure.
It has been changed to RFP.
Do we have any discussion on that?
I guess my only question is, do we really need, is it something that we have to do now, or can we wait till we get an HR director, when we look at the cost of having the contract HR?
I've already talked to the contract HR director about this, and she's ready to go.
That would be a no.
Yeah.
And our budget year is coming up, and, I'd like to have something in front of us during budget, which is coming right around the corner.
What it could do for us is it'll give us two different options. We know what it costs us to operate this department today. It may give us an opportunity to know what it could cost us in the future.
But also, as far as budget, it's not a big impact because it's an enterprise fee.
No, but I'm looking, I personally, I'm looking to improve service. I want more for less. And I really believe that this is the way. It's worked for me in the past, and I've given you specific examples, with resource recovery. And I'll give you more after the meeting if you want.
I'm sure you will.
Yeah.
Ron?
Dean, with the resource recovery, do they pay rent in the building that they're in?
We do charge them indirect costs and rent. So yes, they're
Any idea how much that is?
not off the top of my head.
I didn't bring it.
But I
Okay.
can provide you with that.
It's a
information.
minimal amount because they don't have much office space. And there's 2 individuals.
Okay. Minimal. 80,000? 100,000? I mean,
Oh, yeah.
minimal.
If
20?
Commissioner Klaus,
Yeah.
if you look at page 85
If you
in
can
your
see it, but
packet,
you have glasses, I don't
and
have mine.
my eyes, I'm getting late, but there is the building rent charge
Building rent.
for
yeah.
2015 was $4,904. So they are paying for the cost of the space that they occupy. And we also invoice them for indirect costs, which would be a share of my time and administration and the board. That's one line below.
Yep. Okay.
Plus there's IT costs, right?
They do pay for their computers and their telephones that they use. So they are paying for the costs and the services that they receive from internal.
Those are truly done at about a cost basis. There's no profit for us.
Right, but if it was all outsourced and they weren't there, we would be losing that revenue on the rent or have to rent it out. Okay. Just
If it's less than we're...
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's now time for second public comment. I feel like we should thank everyone.
For sticking
For
it out.
staying awake.
I do want to remind you, this was a double meeting. We did combine public health and safety and RM&A, I swear. We even took off some items, because I knew it was going to be...
Be here till 10.
Yeah. No discussion for public comment. Then we go on to commissioner committee reports. Dan?
I met with 2 representatives from Commission on Aging at my office this week for foot care. And they have a foot care nurse, and she explained to me what she does, and I gave her some advice and extended my hand to advise them anytime they need help. I advised some different changes, but I was impressed with those 2 people, and especially that foot care nurse. She's providing a wonderful service for our citizens, and she's doing a good, safe job of it. I believe I was able to help her a little bit.
Bob?
Yeah, at my Kingsley Village meeting, Monday night, I don't remember what night it is now.
It's Wednesday now, but it'll be Thursday if you don't hurry
Shortly,
up.
I know. I know, it's been a long day. I was given a letter, and I actually forgot to bring it. We have the facility out there at Kingsley called The Rock. It's a nonprofit organization, does a lot in the community. It's also, if I'm not mistaken, it's also a shelter, if so needed. I think they opened up during the storm. And they have gone to the Commission on Aging, because I didn't know that, the Commission on Aging has some of the outreach programs out there, but they don't pay anything to The Rock or any of the facilities for that. So The Rock is in some financial situations because they were run on donations, so they had requested the COA to pay them.
I can report on this if you'd like.
$10,400. So once I get that letter again, I'll bring that up, which to me sounds doable, given the fact that they came to us a few months ago to actually increase their spending because they weren't spending enough of the monies that they were taking in. So I may bring that to you then so that we can discuss that later. So.
I have an update for you, but it's probably better that I update you. But speaking, I'm sorry.
Yes, Madam Chair.
I do apologize. Speaking of meetings Monday night, I came before the City Commission. You all remember at our joint dam meeting that I brought up, well, we're supposed to have a joint meeting regarding our intergovernmental agreement regarding the senior center building rent. And they just kind of all looked at me during the dam meeting, and everybody's kind of going, yeah, yeah. Well, I got up in front of the City Commission meeting Monday night, and I said, our contract says that we are supposed to have a joint meeting with the City Commission. And I then emailed the city manager and the mayor, and I can't remember if I CC'd you, Tom, or not. I truly don't remember. And suggested that maybe it would be more advisable if the administrative staff got together first and tweaked the contract, and then maybe if we, because I don't know why that's in there. We ought to meet jointly as needed, not every year in November. I think that's overkill. We have a good agreement, which could be tweaked a little bit better, according to Chris Forsythe, who I've been in contact with about this. And I'm sure the city attorney probably would like to weigh in and make a few tweaks as well. So what I'm going to say is Mr. Colburn has emailed me, and I just got the email this afternoon, and he said, yeah, I think it would be best if administrative staff met first. Now, I understand that Mr. Menzel is not with us full-time right now. So perhaps...
I think I am most of the time.
Well, it feels that way. It just feels that way.
Just wait.
Yeah, it gets worse. We'll scare him off before he even gets his pictures on the wall. Tom, is this something that you want to meet with Mr. Colburn about, or do you want...
to send someone into negotiations that knows what they're negotiating for, and I don't have a clue, quite frankly.
Yeah.
You'd have to give me a consensus as a board as to what your bottom line is and what you're trying to accomplish. I don't know that. I'm certainly familiar with negotiations, be happy to do that, but I would need direction. I think probably staff interaction is probably positive. It can save a lot of time for all of you, and then we can come back with one or two options. But I would probably take whoever on the staff has had any experience in there with me based on any feedback that the board would give me in terms of what they're looking to accomplish in an agreement.
It really, the city, it's a city park, and they take care of all the outside maintenance, and, well, I'm not going to go into the details. We'll talk. I will get you a copy of the contract.
Just let me know what you're looking for as a bottom line.
The other thing, I was asked, Lori Wells emailed me this afternoon regarding the Rock. And she said the Rock is having a harvest banquet. And she would like to know if the Board of Commissioners would be willing to sponsor a table for $100. Now, we do have an account that's not county money. So I'm just tossing it out there.
We could do it from the flower account.
From the flower account.
When is this harvest banquet?
I don't know. She didn't tell me when the harvest banquet was. She just emailed me, there's a harvest banquet. We can sponsor a table if we so choose for $100. And obviously, that would not be taxpayer dollars. That would be our personal finances. So I'm just tossing that out there, and that's all I have.
That would be a discussion we would have after the meeting, because that's our money, not county money.
Well, I thought I'd give a plug to the harvest banquet.
Perfect.
Sonny.
Sounds like everybody was in meetings on Monday night. Just for everyone's information, and I meant to call Ernie today and I forgot. Green Lake Township approved Monday night the intergovernmental agreement to pay their portion of the aerial orthophotography that we approved a couple months ago, and Long Lake Township ratified theirs last night. So both of my two townships have agreed to sign the intergovernmental agreements and pay their portion of the aerial photography that's going to be done. So, I think we're getting in the right direction. So.
Carol.
I didn't meet Monday evening, but on Monday afternoon, I did go to a presentation from the My Local Hops farm that's out on M72. Everybody's seen all the big tall poles out there. And it's very interesting what they're trying to do. And I bring it up mostly because they had very good comments about Bruce Ramai in our building code department, our soil erosion department, with the help that he's given them with all the, they moved an awful lot of dirt to do what they're doing. And so they had very high praise for Mr. Ramai, so I just wanted to bring that. Thank you.
Well, I did not go to a meeting Monday night.
What are you doing, slacking?
Really?
I was at a benefit dinner for Larry Inman's run for House Representative.
Oh, that's right.
So I was there.
I had too many meetings, I couldn't go.
Along with Representative Pete Battaglia, Senator Tom Casperson, Senator Wayne Schmidt. It was lovely. And I did enjoy that, but I did that at my own personal time, with my own personal dollars. So, but I did want to bring up just an interesting thing on my Township Tuesday. Garfield is in sort of an embroiled battle with the discussion of weekly rentals on Silver Lake. It's a really interesting story, and it's been kind of, what happened was when the bubble burst in 09 and 10, houses were on the market for very cheap that a lot of downstate and Chicago people would love to have for retirement, but they're not retirement age yet. So therefore the weekly rentals came in. And you've got an interesting dynamic there. 5% of the homes on Silver Lake are weekly rentals, but they're a very vocal 5%. And it is just an interesting thing. What Garfield finally did after the homeowners had been, not homeowners, the rental owners, had been coming to the meetings and just sort of sitting in the audience because it wasn't on the agenda and speaking, they pushed it to the Planning Commission, and that is going to be going through. But I think it's, the reason I make mention of it is going to probably be an issue all around Grand Traverse County. I think Silver Lake was just the first. So we're going to keep an eye on how that goes, but it's a very interesting dynamic going on out there between the different associations and things like that. So that was interesting. And the last thing, I just wanted to throw out a couple of accommodations. Greg Bird received the Local Emergency Management Coordinator of the Year at the MEMA conference last week, which is the Michigan Emergency Management Association. So I wanted to, I'm sure Greg's not still here, but well done to Greg. And along with that, other accommodations from the storm, our Grand Traverse 911 dispatch workers of August 2nd were recognized by the Michigan chapter of the Association of Public Safety Communication Officials. And they will be going down to receive an award for their work during the storm. And I wanted to just shout out to Leo Hornacek, Amy Jensen, Patrick Anderson, Jason Myersky, James Domagalski, Tom Ramsey, Greg Lennon, and Joe Miller, all individually recognized by the state. And it's a nice honor. And, you know, that storm did a lot to bring together our community, and I think we just continue to see how we shined through that whole thing, and the staff at Grand Traverse County was a big part of that. So I just wanted to make sure everyone knew about that. And last but not least, I went to the NMC Skilled Trades ribbon cutting on Friday. Really interesting program they have there, part of Governor Snyder's initiative that I really believe firmly in, that not every one of us are meant to have a bachelor's, master's, or doctorate. There are very important skilled trades in communities that are worthwhile for people to study, and NMC now is being recognized by the state as a leader in skilled manufactured trades, and it's an amazing program. So for those of us with kids that aren't maybe thinking about that route, there is worthwhile and very important community skills in the more of the skilled trades. So anyone that's listening, it's a great program, and you can contact NMC. And that was well attended by senators and representatives from around the state. It just goes to show how much the spotlight is on our local college. So if there is any other announcements, I think.
Well, I just had a housekeeping question. Being new, do we have a not to exceed midnight rule on these
It's
meetings?
10.
Or can they go 10? Okay.
It's 10.
We're dangerously close.
Oh, 10:30.
Is
They
it
will
really?
literally
You
come
really
and
have
throw
a-
you out.
Yeah, we do.
The city cops will come pick you up and...
Yeah, we do.
I'm having a race home in Long Lake with Commissioner Wheeler.
Yeah, we do.
You need to carpool.
You could drop me off at the corner, I can walk in. You're right.
Normally, when we
Good
have
idea.
individual committees, it's not quite this bad, but we've had to move public health and
I'm
safety.
I'm just kidding.
It's bad, Tom. We can go 3 or 4 hours.
We had good
Yeah.
substantive discussion on issues, and that's good.
Well, I think it was a great meeting, and I thank you all, and we are officially adjourned.
Bob, don't leave.
You want to talk about the Rock?
No, I can.